There was complete collapse and fall. Screams were heard everywhere. It was complete chaos. The whole city was teeming with monsters. People desperately tried to escape, but everything was in vain. And then things only got worse. As countless creatures continued to infiltrate the city, all the churches are destroyed. Even the so-called deities have disappeared. The monster's voice was faceless and muffled. There was no more hope for this world. And yet, the creature turned its gaze to the young man, who seemed like a bug in comparison to her. He looked bad. All his clothes were torn and covered in blood. What was he trying to protect? The guy concentrated all his last strength into one fist, preparing to strike. Two opposing forces collided at one point, and a bright flash of light occurred. But his attack was unsuccessful, although Shuichi refused to believe it. The creature intercepted his fist with very little effort, and he was unable to strike. And now it was his turn. A bright purple flame lit up above the monster's head. The force of the blow was so powerful that the guy was thrown back several kilometers. His entire back exploded in pain, and the ground beneath him cracked. Even with his so-called holy power, he won't be able to harm him. But a monster can destroy everything that is dear to him. His family, friends, everything. Pathetic martial arts cannot save this world from collapse. There is nothing he can do. He had almost forgotten since the moment he first realized the power of martial arts, back in the Magic Academy. Even though the boy hid his powers most of the time, others helped him. For example, Julia, who defended her brother, even when he was faced with difficult choices, even when he lost everything, when he had to throw the choice to an invincible opponent, or when he encountered the deities. He never forgot the oath he had made to himself when he came to this world. With all his might, the guy tried to stay conscious. He would never give up. In this life, he will put everything he has to protect what is dear to him. They say that before you die, your whole life flashes before your eyes. Indeed, the first thing he saw were memories of his family, his mother, who always took care of everyone, the little sister who always shared sweets with him. It got worse later. Bullying at school. And how dare he appear here? Every blow to the back and stomach was unbearable. The ridicule made him feel desperate. Such a weakling trying to act like a hero to a lady. She then said that he shouldn't have made them angry and that they shouldn't worry about her. And finally, a terrible accident that destroyed everything. There was a deafening scream, a flash of light. But he reacted too late. His brain was almost unable to think. Bleeding. He slowly realized that he was going to die. He remembers being surrounded by strangers, yet they did nothing. Before his death, he felt only regret. He was sorry that he could not protect his family. If there is a next life, Shuichi vows he will protect everyone he cares about. And the unthinkable happened. He woke up in the magical continent Arcanas. On that day, many people gathered in the square. Today was a holiday. They were holding an annual divine blessing. Children under 6 years of age will offer the most valuable things they own to the gods. And if the offering is accepted, the gods will send a divine messenger. Children from wealthy families were the first to make offerings. The more valuable the offering, the greater the chance of a blessing. People around sighed. Lady Blanca's stones looked so expensive. Holt Ryan, the head of the family, made a huge bet for the future of his family. Lucas Ryan is the 6th child in the family, and his sister Julia, the smartest in their family, is sure to receive high-class blessings. The girl was still so small that she could barely move her legs. She placed the crown on the pedestal. Suddenly, the surrounding space swirled with flashes of bright light, and surprised sighs were heard from all sides. Judging by the lightning, this is the blessing of Kohai, the god of thunder. And it was also the 7th level, a level they hadn't seen for 12 years. By the way, the girl offered the Thunder Road crown, but it is not worth the entire Ryan family fortune. They have a second child, so the secret treasure is clearly for him. The father adjusted his son's collar. Now it was Lucas's turn. The sword was a good offering. Vulcanus, the god of fire and the progenitor of magic. To offer something so valuable, the head of the Ryan family bet everything on this child. When the offering touched the seal, everything around changed. Even the sky itself changed color. This has never happened before. Maybe it will be the highest 9th level. The flames slowly spread to the boy's clothes, and he screamed in pain and horror. It was so strong that it melted the sword that was given as an offering. After a while, Everything calmed down and the sky became normal. Has the blessing ended? And where is the divine messenger? Then everyone turned their gaze to the altar. Lucas was hanging in the air in a hunched position, smoke hovering around him. The boy's body fell to the ground like a sack of potatoes. There was a dull thud. His gaze was empty. The Ryan family ran to the boy's body, wondering how this was possible. The priest was horrified, and with a trembling voice, he concluded that the god had rejected his offering. Lucas Ryan was rejected by the progenitor of magic. At the same time, the god of fire was going crazy in his domain, the dirtiest curses escaping from his lips. How dare the Ryan family offer him the sword that almost killed him? The blade still bears the unforgivable marks of how it cut his flesh. These people should be grateful that God only burned the soul of this child. But it seems that a soul from another world has entered the body of this child. There's no point in burning it again. The parasite from the outside world isn't worth the effort. And now we can look at this offering. It's quite a good thing. Suddenly, the boy's eyes opened wide, and they shone with a bright light. The domain of the god of war, the heavenly cave. The god was meditating. Concentrating his power, God struck, thereby tearing apart reality. He achieved his goal. He managed to pass into another space, the source of power that rules this world. Was he really preventing God from ascending to a higher dimension? He was clearly unhappy with this fact. The grotesque monster's mouth opened wide and it let out a deafening screech. With one blow, the god of war swept the monster out of his path. Finally, the necessary passage was formed. He moved forward. The man laughed contentedly. After all, the source of power was not that strong. The boy opened his eyes. Everything seemed blurry. It seemed he heard a voice. He couldn't believe it. He wasn't dead. But a moment later, fear replaced surprise as a dozen men with stern faces leaned over him. Lucas tried to scream, but only a strangled wheeze came out of his throat. The men introduced themselves in unison with one voice. His name is Mars. He is the god of war, and he gives the boy the blessing of the god of war. The boy had no idea what was happening or where he was, and panic settled in his chest. With the blessing of the god of war, the level restrictions for martial arts training have been lifted. Trying to come to his senses, Lucas sat down, wondering what that was, what god of war and what the 9th level was. What's going on here? He should have been dead. He was hit by a truck. What's even stranger is his head or other people's memories of people he never knew. He was reborn into the world of magic as a child who was rejected by the gods. At this rate, his family itself would disown him. But still, by the blessing of the god of war, he doesn't even know what martial arts are. Something nearby fell to the floor with a crash, bringing him back to the real world. His little sister stood on the threshold, her big eyes full of tears. Then, in an instant, she pounced on him, squeezing him in her arms and driving all the air out of his lungs. She heard Jeremy and the others say that he would never wake up. Lucas slowly tried to remember. It seemed to be his sister Julia, but he also had a sister in his past life. And she's probably sad that he's dead. He lost everything when he was reborn. This time, he will protect those who are dear to him. He will protect them with the last of his strength. Well, the god of war has given him strength. He is counting on it. The temple was dark and gloomy. Only the altar was illuminated by daylight. The statue's face was streaked with red, and blood was flowing from the goddess's eyes. It gathered into a huge puddle at the foot of the altar, bubbling and giving birth to something new. First a head appeared, then shoulders and a hunched back. The pale creature slowly crawled out. The presence of that bastard Mars disappeared. He died or simply left this world. The woman struggled to break free from the bloody shackles. She had so little strength left, but it doesn't matter since he is no longer standing in her way. This world will soon belong to them. 9 peaceful years passed. Lucas changed and matured. The weather got even better. Julia probably finished her magic training. Lucas walked towards the garden. He decided to meet his sister. Out of the corner of his ear, he heard something moving behind him. Unfortunately, he reacted too late, and a thorny branch caught and pinned him. Again, only one person would do such nonsense. Turning around, the boy confirmed his suspicions. Jeremy was standing behind him. He met again with Lucas, the child rejected by the gods, and how he had not yet been expelled. Jeremy Ryan was a 5th-level Blessing Mage student and Lucas's half-brother. He has already said more than once that only the family's mages can be in the backyard. Maybe Lucas will learn his lesson if Jeremy breaks a few of his ribs. The vine squeezed his body even harder, and Lucas screamed. Julia will finish her magic training soon. She could be here any second. So if Jeremy doesn't want to be fried to a crisp by lightning, let him go. Yes, he's just hiding behind his sister, as if Jeremy was afraid of a small lightning bolt. The guy said this with a tremor in his voice, and yet the boy was right to be afraid. What Lucas said came true a second later. Julia arrived just in time, and the vine finally released his brother. If Jeremy bullies her brother again, he's in trouble. She will definitely take all these branches off her brother right now. As Lucas might guess, the boy has learned his lesson and won't repeat it again. Judging by Jeremy's pale face, he was frankly unwell, and he could hardly stand on his feet. If he had even tried, he would have definitely been able to beat the crap out of Jeremy for not answering. He told her many times that his real strength was a secret between him and Julia. Besides, he knows that his sister will always protect him. It's been 9 years since the boy was reborn in the body of Lucas Ryan. 9 years ago, when he woke up, Lucas's father came to him. He was sure that he would be thrown out of the house for not living up to expectations. But his father hugged him tightly. He was so happy because his son had woken up safely. That was all that mattered. Holt Ryan runs a nightly order, so he's almost never home. But even so, he is a good father who truly cares about them. When Holt learned that his son had started training martial arts, he immediately sent a letter with useful information. Lucas says his family's archive contains several old books on martial arts, and he hopes they will be useful to the boy in his training. Thanks to these letters, the boy was able to put into action one bold plan. Lucas spent 6 months digging under his room to build a secret training ground. He divided the space into 4 zones: study, training, and storage. The smallest one, the bathroom. He spent all his money on supplying other areas. From the moment he completed the construction of the training ground, he began to train here every day. Strength training, martial arts, potion making. He did everything. Taking a therapeutic bath is the most effective way to relieve tension after martial arts training. 3 years had passed since he started training using a book called The Chaotic Tempering Technique that he found in the archives. Now, any magical attack of the 5th level or lower will not leave even a scratch on him. His defense is finally improving. And as for his offense, he is still working on it, and very persistently. He trains almost every day with different types of weapons, and this brings good results. Thunder Spear, piercing the clouds, he reached the 4th level. His skills have been steadily improving over the past 9 years. But there's one more thing that worries him. When a martial artist reaches a certain level, he reaches the limit of his abilities. The way to break through is to achieve enlightenment. But enlightenment is so difficult to achieve that most practitioners simply give up in despair, which is why almost no one trains martial arts. However, Lucas decided that he would be different. Day after day, he continues to train diligently, perfecting his punch. His magical abilities also grow, and he can now use the exploding fist of furious war. Its levels are constantly rising, until there is no talk of any limit. That's right, Holt Ryan is coming home today. They're having a family dinner. The guy quickly returned to his room. He changed his clothes. Now he looks proper. The family was already waiting for him at the table, of course. His sister was the happiest to see him. 6 months have passed since the last meeting with his father. He was really looking forward to his son. Lucas smiled. He was also happy to see his father. Alan's Magic Academy is opening a special martial arts department. He has already enrolled his son. Martial arts are not easy, but his father knows he can handle it. The entrance exam is next week. Lucas is grateful for this opportunity and will prepare well. No matter what world he is in, he must become stronger to protect the things that are important to him. But he also decided that he shouldn't stand out too much. It would only bring problems. Julia also received an invitation from the academy to the elite class. The father studied the letter with interest and chuckled contentedly. Apparently, his daughter's reputation even reached Alan Academy. Perhaps in the near future, they will see the birth of a great mage from the Ryan family. Why does Lucas get special treatment if he enters the Magic Academy? What will happen to Jeremy's reputation? His mother pinched him on the side. He needed to calm down. Then she gently stroked his head. He shouldn't worry. Jessica was the second wife of Ryan's family. But there was no guarantee that Lucas would pass the test. A week later, the day of the exam for the martial arts department of the Magic Academy arrived. Mrs. Ryan was worried about her children. She wished them luck. When they settled in, she would come with their favorite pudding. That's right. They mustn't forget the lucky coins their father gave them. They belonged to the Boone dynasty, which united the world about 10,000 years ago. Holt received it by taming a magical beast. Mars, the first emperor, is engraved on the front, with his weapons on the back. Lucas was surprised because the emperor's face reminded him of the very spirit that gave him strength. My parents gave me the advice to always keep them with me as a good luck charm. Lucas has been blessed with a good family in both his lives. He is a truly lucky man. His mood and self-confidence immediately soared, and he and his sister went to the exam. A few hours later, the carriage stopped in the middle of the forest. The sun would soon set. The driver suggested setting up camp. If they leave tomorrow morning, I'll reach the city of Daku, where the Allen Academy is located, by nightfall. Julia was delighted. It was so fast. And there is something interesting in the city of Daku. When he thinks of Daku, he immediately thinks of the annual magical dodgeball tournament that takes place in the spring. This city is also famous for its cuisine. Julia was already looking forward to it. Lucas chuckled at the funny look on his sister's face as his gut instinct sensed something. He secretly activated his powers 2 kilometers away. 12 horses and 13 people. They are approaching quickly. He asked the butler if there were bandits in the area, but the chances of running into them were quite small. Lucas's chaotic tempering technique gave him not only a strong offensive defense, but also an excellent sense of smell, meaning he didn't misheard. There are only 5 of them, and one of them is a child, so we need to be careful. The guy jumped up. An unknown group is heading here, and quickly, they need to get into formation. Everyone else was confused. The soldiers didn't even hear the birds chirping, as young Master Lucas says. The butler still believed the words of the young master. He ordered the others to immediately prepare their weapons. The old man wasn't sure where his master got this information from, but it was better to be on the safe side. Literally a few minutes passed when the guards heard the clatter of horses. There were a lot of people. This is not a joke. They are really here. One of the bloodthirsty bandits grinned. New victims, their boss was right. Before the exam at the Allen Academy, there will be a lot of nobles here. The butler stepped forward. They generally understand what happens to those who associate with the nobility. Who cares about these nobles? The leader gave the order to kill everyone except those 2 brats. The bandits went on the offensive. Time was running out. The soldiers would cover Lord Forden. The swords crossed with a loud clash, and the soldier managed to knock the bandit off his horse. The butler acted quickly, swinging his sword with all his might. Heads were flying. His job is to protect the children. They must leave everything to him. The forest was filled with screams of anger and pain. The ground was sprinkled with blood. The onslaught of the bandits was too great. Lord Fortin ordered Lucas to take his sister and run. The soldiers screamed in agony as they were engulfed in flames. The bandits' leader is to blame for everything. It seems he is a fire mage. The butler realized that there was no time to think. The 2 had to run into the forest immediately. Unfortunately, the old man got distracted and missed a blow from one of the bandits. The splattered blood turned the grass red, and Lucas was furious. The bandits screamed, "That bastard, he killed his comrade! And now he will fry him to a crisp." The butler was surrounded. There was nowhere to run. His vision was blurry. The old man stood on his feet with the last of his strength. He would protect the young master and lady, even at the cost of his life. Fordon is only at the 2nd level of martial arts. He will not be able to stand up to the magician. Lucas really did not want to reveal his true strength, but Ford was kinder to him than anyone else except his parents. The boy's heart ached for this old man, because he was practically family to him, and now he can't just stand by and watch his family get killed. The guy ordered Julia to hide. He would help their butler. The girl was too scared and decided not to interfere, only wishing his brother to be careful. The old man fought with all his might. His muscles weakened. The bandit was about to split his skull. But this did not happen. A bloody scarlet flower blossomed in the air. The scene was grotesque. The bandit's body was torn to pieces. The other men also began to panic. They did not understand what had happened. Small stones flew in different directions, splitting the skulls of their opponents. 1, 2, 3. The cracking of skulls rang out one after another. It's a good thing Lucas reached Storm Strike level 4 just by shooting birds out of the sky for fun. Now for him, destroying a couple of first-level bandits is a mere trifle. The bandit leader began to panic. Damn, who did this? Gritting his teeth, he looked around in panic. His subordinates were killed instantly. He formed a new spell, shouting that he would take the old man with him. The clearing exploded into a bright flame, and it was too late to do anything. Forden resigned himself. He didn't have the strength to dodge. But thanks to his help, the children would live. He is ready to accept his death with ease, because he has completed his task. But Lucas wasn't going to leave things like that. He instantly activated a new spell. With just one blow, he was able to dispel the wave of fire that was descending downwards. The butler couldn't believe his eyes. Did the young master really have abilities? The bandit leader was confused as to how his fireball was blocked. Lucas's voice shook with anger. He was already finished. Concentrating all his strength in one fist, he aimed the blow straight at the man's chest. The blow was so powerful that not a single wet spot remained. A little boy instantly killing a high-level mage is unheard of. Lucas acted as if nothing had happened. He seems to have a talent for martial arts. Lucas sat down on the ground, fatigue weighing on his shoulders. He had used up a lot of his energy during this fight. When all the noise died down, Julia ran out from behind the bushes. She was proud of her brother. He saved her and defeated all the bad guys. The butler was still puzzled by what had just happened. Lucas felt that something was wrong. They were not alone. One of the horses rebelled and neighed loudly. It seemed like someone was sitting on it. To be more precise, a girl was lying there, bound hand and foot. Julia quickly dealt with the ropes on her limbs. That's what she's called a Mayan Rasta. The butler chuckled thoughtfully. Rasta? He had heard this somewhere before. Julia nodded her head quickly, as if she did too. This is because the Rasta and Ryan families are two houses that live near the city of Daku. Technically, they are neighbors. By the way, how did it happen that Maya was attacked by bandits? It seemed like it was hard for the girl to talk about it. Tears welled up in her eyes. A few hours ago, bandits suddenly appeared and attacked their cart. Maya sobbed intermittently as she told how they killed her guards one by one. It didn't matter how many times the girl told them she was a noblewoman. The bandits didn't listen. Their goal was to kidnap them, the noble children. Julia hugged the girl, trying to calm her down. Everything is fine. They are already dead. Lucas was silent, his heart heavy. The butler handed him a baked potato. Lady Maya and Miss Julia had already sent him to bed. Lucas needed to discuss this. What Ford thought about what Lady Maya had said. As he can guess, these bandits are serial criminals. Most likely they only targeted nobles. Bandits who can use magic and have the incredible ability to control the dead. The old man realized something with horror. It seemed that all of this was being controlled by a terrible demon. The old man will immediately inform the master about this, so Master Lucas need not worry. If they report Lady Maya's situation to the Rasta family, they might be able to start cooperating with them. The next day, the entire company finally reached the Carmino Empire. To the border region, the city of Adaku. There may still be some bandits in the city. For their safety, it's better to go straight to the Magic Academy. Julia was upset because she really wanted to see the city. Lady Maya agreed with Lucas, all for their safety. She wanted to go outside with food. When they passed by, Lucas would buy his sister everything she wanted. They have finally entered the city. Wouldn't the young people like to open the window and look around? The city was spacious and crowded, and to say nothing of its architecture made the children's eyes run wild. So this is the largest city after the capital. So lively, Lady Maya could not hold back her admiring sigh. It seemed that a little more and Julia would stick to the glass, Lucas smiled to himself. Indeed, the atmosphere in the city is similar to the one where he lived in his past life. They passed many interesting places. Then Lucas went into a bakery store. The day had gone well, and he was glad he had been able to lift the girl's spirits. Finally, the carriage stopped, and he announced that he could not drive any further. Fordon needn't worry. Lucas will protect his little sister. Julia waved goodbye to him, it's true, and she will protect her brother. Lucas patted her on the head. He was counting on this little magical genius. Lord Forden secretly wiped away a stingy tear. These children grow up so quickly. Lady Maya was surprised by their interaction. His younger sister is protecting him. What an interesting guy. The butler watched with excitement as the three small figures walked away in the direction of the academy. Lady Maya looked at her brother and sister with interest, and secretly, they were both so kind. She was glad to have met them. She had a feeling that this was a new beginning. That evening, the butler told the young master something. He remembered that Lady Maya had once been his fiancée, and they had been close as children. But later, when it turned out that the gods had rejected him and he had no magical talent, the engagement was cancelled. The Allen Magic Academy in the south of Daku City is one of the most famous schools in the Carmina Empire. All first-year students must pass an entrance exam, and based on their results, they will be divided into departments. The academy has a faculty of earth, a faculty of fire, a faculty of wind, and a faculty of water. If a student can last all 6 years and graduate, they will earn the qualification of a mage. Although there are special exceptions for exceptional students. Any student who passes the mage certification exam during their studies may graduate early, without having to study for the full 6 years. The emotions that crossed Julia's face did not escape Lucas's eyes. What a shame. She was hoping that she would be able to pass the entrance exams together with Maya. As a result, Maya first of all went to the entrance exam accompanied by her family. Now that her family is with her, she is safe. If they pass everything, they will become classmates and will be able to see each other every day. But now they need to focus on the entrance exam. Julia's spirits were lifted again. Her brother was right. So where is the registration? Julia touched many of those present. Did she really come to the exam too? She looks 12 at the most. Her brother is also handsome. They are somewhat similar. The brother and sister were walking through the campus, looking around with interest, when someone stopped them. It was the vice president of the student council of the Allen Magic Academy. Her name was Mina. She squatted down to be on the same level as Julia, wondering if the girl had really snuck in here after her older brother. Julia lifted her chin proudly. She was here to take the exams with him. Mina couldn't believe her ears. She was also giving an exam. Could she really be the girl who was proposed to by the elite class? Mina smiled. She seemed to have guessed that in front of her was Julia from the Ryan family. The girl was genuinely surprised at how the vice president knew her name. Julia will find out everything soon. But for now, Mina will take them to the reception desk. Lucas was unhappy because the girl ignored him. Julia did not leave it like that. Mina laughed awkwardly. Lucas Ryan. He's also applying to the martial arts department. Somewhere from the side, there was laughter. Are there really still idiots who are into this? It's hilarious that someone would come all the way to the Allen Magic Academy just to learn martial arts. These self-confident looks. Nothing changes, even in the Allen Academy. All the magicians are convinced that they are superior to martial artists. But really, they're just a bunch of weaklings, just like Jeremy and the rest. For Lucas, they are no better than insects. If it weren't for the kindness of his parents, he wouldn't have been wasted here at the time. Mina remained silent. Watching from the side, she felt that something was wrong. The girl sighed heavily. Partly she felt guilty, all because she said it out loud. No time to be sad. Mina forced a smile again, then turned to Lucas. She will take the guy to the exam hall as soon as he finishes registering. Lucas noticed that the vice president was different. She didn't look down on him. A large crowd of people gathered on the academy grounds, and all the teenagers were filling out their information on paper. Mina asked everyone to hand over their registration form to a student council member. Here is their emblem. They have their exam numbers written on them, so they must wear them when they enter the hall. In the first stage, they first measure their magical potential. After this, there is a test of the student's compatibility with the spirits of different elements. And the very last one is a test in which they will measure the destructive power of their magic on a dummy. Applicants to the martial arts department follow the same rules, and the entrance exam is the same for all departments to ensure fairness. Is it really a matter of fairness? Or are they just too lazy to create a specialized exam for the martial arts department? Lucas decided he could brag a little to get rid of the prejudices about martial arts students. When the candidates passed, instead of measuring their magical potential, they were asked to place their hands on the magic light one by one. As he passed Lucas, the examiner stopped and made a face of incredulity. Something he had never seen before. Once in 100, no, once in 1,000, it happens that the candidate has zero potential. Others laughed. With such a result, he wouldn't even get into the martial arts department. When his sister touched the orb, it glowed purple. the color representing the potential of the 7 out of 10. It just so happens that Julia is one of the best candidates this year. They were all so surprised by this. Lucas shouted to his sister that she could not hold back today. The girl followed her brother's advice, and the ball lit up with a golden light. The light was so bright that it blinded everyone present. They sighed in surprise and closed their eyes. The examiner forgot how to breathe. This is a golden light. Just one step less than the 10th level. They already had a student with a golden light 2 years ago. But this girl is much younger. What an incredible talent. Lucas hugged his sister and praised her. She is wonderful. One day she will become a great magician. Many of those present did not watch their language at all. A brilliant magician and a talentless loser. Brother and sister. Just believe it. He doesn't even know what this girl can do to him if he insults her brother. He'd better choose someone else to make fun of. As he planned, if Julia showed her talent, Lucas could live a peaceful student life. It seems that all the efforts he made over the past 3 years to strengthen Julia's talent were not in vain. When the first stage was over, the examiner moved on to the second test. He asked everyone to go to the spirit hut. Today was the day when all of Lucas's work would pay off, and he eagerly moved on. The ability testing room was much larger and brighter, which is not surprising since the walls were glass. There were many small spirits flying around under the ceiling. Their colors were different, depending on the reflection of their element. Julia couldn't take her eyes off them, and soon the spirits surrounded her. Even the air spirit didn't approach him, and he has a 6th level blessing from the god of wind. And all the spirits approached this girl? Does this mean that she has the highest compatibility with all types of magic? Well, the skill he created, the magic meridian technique, safely increases Julia's potential. She's only at level 2, but that's enough to get through. Julie Ryan's score is 9.6, the highest of all candidates. Many candidates began to pay attention to the girl and approached her with the intention of making friends. But Julia was only scared. She clung to her brother. Lucas tried to calm her down. Why are all these people looking at her like that? She is very scared. There's nothing to be done about it after all. His sister is a genius. From now on, she'll often have to face such looks. But she shouldn't worry about what others think. She should just get used to it slowly. Lucas was worried. He didn't think Julia cared so much about other people's opinions. He had to help her gain confidence and courage. With such talent, he initially thought that the girl was of royal blood. But her brother was useless, so that was unlikely. The guys were interested in Lucas's compatibility level, probably 0 again. The spirits immediately tried to run away from him as soon as he entered the hall. They were disgusted. Did he notice something strange happened after the second test? When Lucas Ryan came out, the fire spirit had almost dissolved, which scared him. The guy began to calm his friend down. The spirits were already tiny. He probably just imagined it. Lucas froze in place, having overheard their conversation. The corners of his lips curled up. He didn't think there would be witnesses to this. During the first test, perhaps because the fire god hates him, fire behaved simply disgustingly. And when the test was over and Lucas was about to leave, he spat fire at the guy. Holding a grudge for an attempted murder is very much like him. A pathetic servant of the god of fire has no right to treat him like this. Lucas grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her forward. They had to go to the final test. Will she be able to get first place again? As long as her brother is okay, she will be okay too. He will be fine, after all. It is Lucas who must protect her. Finally, all the students went into the hall to test the destruction magic. The hall was filled with metal mannequins, apparently where the candidates would practice their techniques. It's so annoying that geniuses like her are taking all the top spots. So he's going to take out his stress on this mannequin. What if this genius breaks the dummy? The other guy cried out. It's impossible. This dummy is made of a special metal that has been hardened with defensive spells, so it will withstand any attack below the curse class. There was no way a child her age could have carried out a curse class attack. This dummy really does look tough. It's a great chance for Lucas to test his level 6 skills. It's nice to go to school when you can use such expensive equipment. A shrill scream came from somewhere over my shoulder. Stop jumping the queue. One of the candidates was dissatisfied and pointed her finger, demanding that they stand in line. Those who don't have talent here go backwards, so she must leave. The other girl ignored the attacks. She simply walked past. Seeing Julia, she headed towards her. It was she who received compatibility levels 9 and 6. The girl's gaze was terrifying. especially considering that due to the difference in height, she looked down on Julia. The girl felt her stomach twist with fear, and she pressed herself against her brother. Lucas put his arm around Julia, then looked at the girl to see who she was. Squinting, the girl introduced herself as the Emperor's granddaughter, Quince Miranda. The Miranda family is one of the 3 great houses from the northern part of the empire. One family in which a legendary magician once appeared. Their mother, Kyria Catherine, was from the Miranda family, meaning this girl is the daughter of his mother's younger brother. Lucas took a deep breath, then asked Quince how old she was. The girl made a dissatisfied face. 15, however. Lucas didn't let her finish. She shouldn't look at him like that. They were cousins after all. Quince was beside herself with rage. She had never heard of any cousins so rude. The conversation ended when Lucas's name was called. He was next and had to get ready. As he passed by, he looked at the board, and Quince was in second place. And she had come to declare war on Julia because she was in first place. The guy mentally apologized to her. But for the sake of his peaceful life, Julia cannot give up first place. He then took a pill out of his pocket and offered it to his sister under the pretext that it was a candy. As soon as the girl swallowed the pill, she grimaced with displeasure. Her brother lied. It didn't taste good at all. With a slight chuckle, Lucas apologized. It was a special potion made from rare ingredients. She would soon see the effect for herself. Lucas said goodbye to his sister. Next time, he will work on the taste. He stopped right in front of the mannequin, its metal covering glinting in the sun. After the examiner recorded his data, he asked Lucas to attack the dummy with all his strength, and he would calculate the force of destruction and give him a final score. The boy interrupted the examiner, admitting that he could not use magic. He chuckled. It would be okay if he just hit him. He's going to take the exam in manual destruction magic, martial arts, or some kind of barbarism. Most likely, he'll just break his arm. Julia cleared her throat in displeasure. The guys winced. Damn. They forgot that his sister was a magical genius. If Lucas hadn't told her to behave well at the academy, she would have beaten up those guys a long time ago. Ava was surprised to the depths of her soul. Could it really be that her brother really couldn't use magic? Yes, her brother can't do magic, but he's still incredible. And she doesn't laugh at her brother. He's a really good person. The power of a martial artist cannot surpass magic. Apparently, he is deceiving it. Then there was a loud bang, the screeching of metal, and the training field seemed to explode. Many of the cadets looked around in surprise at what had just happened. To get the answer to their questions, you need to look at what happened 2 minutes ago. The examiner told Lucas that they had no right to limit him in his choice of attack method. This is exactly the answer Lucas was hoping to hear. Every time he levels up by 3, his strongest skill, Rapid Flash, gains a significant speed boost. Now that he has reached the 6th level, his strength must have increased. Lucas clenched his fist, gathering all his strength into it, and then swung. The fist moved along its trajectory too quickly. To the naked eye, it looked like an ordinary flash in the air. The burning fist collided with the iron of the dummy, which instantly flew back. Burrowing into the ground, the metal dummy continued to move forward, plowing the earth and raising dust. When its movement stopped, it could be understood that it was completely destroyed and unfit for further inspection. This speed is not inferior to high-level wind magic, and the dummy glowed golden, meaning the attack was of the curse level. Despite being just an incompetent martial artist, he managed to punch the dummy. Apparently, Quince was the only one who noticed Lucas's true strength. She looked at the screen, and judging by his behavior, he wants to hide her. Lucky guy, for the first time in 1,000 years, someone broke a dummy. He'll get a good grade. The dummy is too heavy, so the examiner will remove it with magic. It can walk. Lucas escaped 0 and kept his power undetected, all thanks to those who looked down on him. As the exam progressed, fewer and fewer students focused on Lucas's power of destruction. However, everyone was surprised by Julia's extraordinary talent. Some were even scared. Red lightning. Second only to the highest level gold lightning in strength, it is no wonder that lightning magic is considered the best in attack. It's amazing. So that's the level of a student with a scholarship. If they achieve the same by graduation, that will be enough. Julia fell to the ground, her legs probably giving way from how steep her zipper had been. Julia Ryan's result was announced. It was 9.5 units. Next, when Julia used the lightning strike, she suddenly turned red. It scared her so much. Before, even at full power, she could only create purple lightning. The lightning itself felt brighter. Something was wrong. Lucas remained silent, all thanks to the candy he gave her earlier. It gives a temporary boost to the mage's ability. In this world, both magic and martial artists have pharmaceutical abilities. Magicians create magical potions, and martial artists create alchemical cures. Magic potions require items to consume, while alchemical cures can be consumed directly. In the past, many medicines were created, but with the decline in popularity of martial arts, alchemy has become very difficult to practice. Very few modern martial artists can create mana-storing drugs like the one that enhanced Julia's abilities. They can't, because creating such a medicine requires the 6th level of alchemy. In this era, there is only one person besides him who can do this: the Imperial Minister of Martial Arts, the only 9th level master, Duke Retsuzan. Even the greatest magi bow their heads before Duke Retsuzan to receive the medicine that preserves mana. If anyone finds out that the guy can do the same, it will cause problems. He is obliged to keep it a secret. The brother and sister were sitting on a bench, waiting for the class assignments to be announced. Then they will be able to return to the hostel to rest. Someone addressed them by name. It was Vice President Mina. What is she doing here? Mina came to publish the results of class distribution. The two took first place in the elite class and the martial arts department, respectively. She congratulates. Julia jumped for joy. She entered the elite class. When a girl moves on to the next year, she must decide which faculty she wants to join. The academy has 5 faculties: earth, fire, wind, water, and one special one. After the first year of study, everyone is assigned based on their exam results. Julia thought, perhaps she was interested in the wind. The vice president smiled radiantly. Well, the mine will be waiting for her at the wind faculty. The vice president said goodbye to the guy. She will take Miss Julia to the women's dormitory. Lucas waved goodbye, asking the girl to keep an eye on his little sister, and he will head to the martial arts department. The guy went in the opposite direction. As expected, Julia Ryan, this year's freshmen are just dust under this genius's feet. Miranda was disappointed. In the end, she lost. Someday, she will definitely become the first. Lucas stopped in front of his own dorm. They don't care about the martial arts department at all. Can he really live here? It feels like the building is about to collapse. At least he would be able to live a peaceful life, and no one would bother him. The guy tried to reassure himself. Out of nowhere, a guy jumped out in front of him, making Lucas jump in place. He introduced himself. His name is Kai Terra. He is also in the martial arts department. It was nice to meet him. Lucas remained silent and, without answering, moved on. However, Kai was too intrusive. It was so cool when he sent that dummy flying. Having filled out the necessary documents, the butler handed the guy the key. His room was on the 2nd floor. Kai beamed with a radiant smile. They live in the same room. They will go together. Lucas moved down the corridor with disgust. The beginning was already promising. When they opened the door, there was already someone inside the room. Collins and Sharp were nice-looking guys, and from today on, they were neighbors. Kai Teroy couldn't believe his eyes. What was happening to this room? It was worse than a pigsty. Lucas will really be left in such a disgusting room. Kai jumped when he saw the spider. All 3 of them glanced sideways at the new guy. This rich kid was a real pain in the ass, but their opinion quickly changed when a coin flashed in Kai's hand. He will give this coin to the one who cleans the room. The boys immediately obeyed him. To so casually offer a sum significantly higher than a commoner's monthly salary, and just for cleaning. He really is the son of one of the 3 great noble houses in the north of the empire. Kai continued to whine. He was not told that they would be living practically in a stall. Come on. This is the famous Aaron Magic Academy. He's sure everything will work out. At the sight of another spider, Kai became hysterical again. This was a prison cell. If he talks like that, the council members will throw him out. Within hours, the room was sparkling. Their new neighbors had done a great job. Great. Here's their reward. From now on, as their neighbor, Kai will protect them. A coin in the pocket, and a gold one at that, lifted everyone's spirits. He is certainly not a priest, but he is as generous as the god of wealth on the continent of Arcanas. The butler arrived just in time and brought their uniforms. The induction ceremony will take place in the hall, so they need to change and come. Kai was shocked again. What kind of rag was this? If he put it on, he would look like a homeless person. Everything will be explained at the entrance ceremony. But apparently the academy has a system for considering student requests and complaints. If they ask to improve their content here, maybe they will even be allowed to change the form. This became a great motivation for Kai. They need to hurry to the gym. Lucas sighed heavily. This guy is so trusting. After a while, they entered the hall. Lucas was pleased with the uniform. It fit him like a glove. It was a pity that it was old. He looked around. The stands were filled with new students. Collins assessed the hall. How luxurious it was. Compared to the Kai's house, it was nothing. If Lucas is looking for his sister, the elite class is in the front row. The guy pointed down, and sure enough, Julia was sitting in front of everyone. The elite class uniform was indeed different, and the martial arts students sat in the back, so if he wanted to talk to his sister, he had to go now. Lucas has no need to rush. Everything is fine. They need to go to their places. The martial arts students' places are so far away, but they are treated differently. The hall lit up with the finest fiery patterns, and the first lecturer appeared to greet the new students. Today, he, the student council president, the future great mage Theo Philomel, will introduce them to the Academy's point system. Here at the Aaron Magic Academy, almost everything is based on a point system. Magical skills and rare books, magical beasts, rare materials, and even the instructions of the great masters who teach them. They can get any learning resource for points. There are many ways to earn points. It is more effective to earn points by participating in events within each faculty than by simply working. In fact, mentoring new students today is a great opportunity for current students to earn points. And also, if they become a member of the student council, they will receive a stable income of points every month. For example, a vice president gets about 200 points a month, while other members get about 100. And while it's quite risky, there's also the option of hunting monsters. Behind the school, there is a mountain that is known to be teeming with magical beasts. If they hunt monsters and give materials, they will get the corresponding amount of points. The mountain range with monsters is his personal training ground. Finally, night came. Everyone went to bed, and the hostel was quiet. Lucas lit the incense he had made himself using his knowledge. The scent of silence lulled his neighbors to sleep, and he would finally be able to go hunting on the mountain. The martial arts department is located in the academy area, which means if he climbs over this wall, he will end up on a mountain with monsters. The guy activated his abilities. Lucas easily jumped over the wall. He enjoyed feeling the breeze in his hair and the beautiful view opening up before him. He moved forward nimbly and quickly, freedom intoxicating his mind. Here is his first victim. He jumped on the back of a horned frog. The horn was the most valuable material. Lucas reached for it. A scuffle ensued. The frog lost its balance and fell to the ground. When the animal came to, it discovered that its horn was missing. What a huge horned toad! The poisonous horns of the black toad are often used in making potions. Lucas figured they must be worth a lot of points. They said the Aaron Magic Academy had a legendary collection of martial arts books. He needs to earn points to obtain the so-called martial arts god skill. The guy doesn't have much time. First, he will figure out the location of the magical beasts. Covering his face, he concentrated on his inner core, activating his abilities. The magic eye acts as a locator, helping to detect living creatures that may be nearby. The next one he came across was a level 1 shell rat. She was easy to handle. Lucas had worked hard on his skills. He then moved on to more challenging monsters, such as the level 2 one-eyed bat. One after another, he attacked the monsters. The third level fire leopard. Soon, he raised such a commotion in the forest that all the creatures ran away. With the amount he collected today, besides the fact that he can exchange a lot of points, he can also use some of them for alchemy. Lucas was dragging a huge bag behind him, and yet, somehow, he was suspiciously quiet, and he hardly feels the presence of magical beasts. Maybe there is a strong magical beast somewhere nearby. Lucas tuned in again, activating his magic locator. First, the eye led him towards a small cave. He plunged inside, feeling the space, until I came across piercing light eyes and a grinning mouth. He found someone. And this beast will be bigger. The distance is 1 kilometer. If, of course, the animal also sensed it. An overwhelming aura emanated from the cave. Lucas felt tension. There was definitely a terrible beast sitting there. First, his ears picked up a growl that echoed off the walls of the cave. Then the huge beast itself crawled out. Those piercing eyes and light fur are unmistakable. A 6th-level ice flame wolf. Lucas realized that the animal was protecting its territory this way because it was a wolf. While the animal studied him distrustfully, Lucas tried to develop a tactic in his head. Well, he's warmed up his fists. Time to begin. He didn't wait and was the first to attack. The wolf growled aggressively. Taking a deep breath, the creatures spewed out icy flames. Lucas felt pain in his fist. It was bound by a huge piece of ice, but he didn't panic, but used it in battle. A hard fist does more damage. His blow was so powerful that the wolf flew away from him several meters. He needed more training so he could rip his leg off permanently. He enjoys fighting with a strong beast so much. This one must be worth a lot of points. Sometimes the magical beasts of this world are born with a magical core inside their body. A rare magical material that contains the life force of the beast. If even a drop of human blood touches the core, the beast recognizes that person as its master. Thus, Lucas suppressed the creature's will and asked if the wolf would become his familiar. Of course, the monster had no choice. Lucas would gladly accept him. What an unexpected acquisition. Even among magicians, few have 6th-level familiars. But this one doesn't seem very smart. The truly strong and magical beasts are too proud to obey humans. Taking out a knife, the guy made a small cut on his hand, sprinkling the wolf's core with blood. When that was done, he returned them back to the monster. Lucas froze in surprise when he heard someone's voice from the side. The voice was growling and hoarse, as if it was coming from inside his head. He slowly turned his distrustful gaze to the wolf's face. It seemed that now he understood his speech. Lucas stroked the monster affectionately. Good boy. He will call him Yule. Does this mean that this earth now belongs to him? As the owner of Yule? I wonder if the wolf got anything out of his hunt. Yule happily led him deeper into the cave. His treasures are here. The entire skin of a 6th-level magical beast, the bones of a powerful monster, and even precious stones. Greed and avarice filled Lucas's thoughts. He could no longer think rationally. This was a real treasure trove. He didn't pay attention to Yule's voice. What his master was doing was not his treasure. All the beast cores here are at least level 3. There are even 2 level 6. The cores of the water element and the fire element. The wolf ate them to increase his level. To level up, you need to eat the core of a magical beast of the same level or higher, which means Yule has killed at least 2 enemies of his level. That's not bad. The guy praised his familiar. Here's his reward. This is medicine. It works on magical beasts. He must rest and continue to guard the treasure. Lucas grinned. And now he can go back to the academy. The sun had just risen when the academy announced the wake-up call. It was time for classes. Lucas ended up staying up all night. But thanks to the calming scent of incense, he feels rested. Before leaving, he tried to count the treasures. But Yule kept getting in the way under his feet, demanding attention. Finally, the bell rang and all the new students headed to class. Shouldn't a teacher wait for freshmen in class for their first lesson? Just don't tell me they forgot to appoint a teacher for the martial arts department. That simply can't happen. A man burst into the classroom, throwing the doors open. Damn, he was so drunk. He looked simply disgusting, and the smell coming from him was terrible. In a hoarse voice, he introduced himself as Sigurd, the class teacher of the martial arts department. And now they will begin the lesson. Then, with a scribble of chalk, the man wrote his name on the board, and many clutched their ears. He also had a simply disgusting habit. Before turning the page of a book, he would always wet his finger with saliva. Kai was barely holding back his anger. It was just disgusting. He couldn't believe his eyes. Could it really be their class teacher? A real slob? It was at that moment that a small piece of chalk hit Kai's forehead and he cried out in pain. The other students looked around in confusion as to why this guy suddenly shouted. Lucas continued to study his teacher. Such fast movements. Most likely Zegard is a 5th or 6th level martial artist. From now on, such private conversations are prohibited without his permission. And now they will check the attendance. After a while, the teacher got to Lucas's name, and the boy raised his hand. Lucas saw this girl at the induction ceremony. While everyone else was in awe, she sat quietly and stood out. Having marked everyone in the notebook, the man slammed it shut. Okay, everyone is here. Sigarth spoke as if he had no idea what kind of lesson they had. He appointed Teishi as the headman, and now she has to go to his laboratory and bring textbooks. The girl was embarrassed. Kai jumped up from the table. The class president should be appointed based on the results of fair elections between candidates. He, who has both pedigree and ability, will become the class president. Sure enough, another piece of chalk hit him in the forehead. Sigurd had already told him that private conversations were forbidden in his class. Then he headed towards the door, ordered that in his old age everyone be given textbooks, and that they should do everything on their own. Teishi not only passed the entrance exam, but was also chosen as the class president. She will take this chance and change her destiny. Kai sat in the corner of the classroom and exaggeratedly dramatized how cruel their teacher was. And they are also strange. You need to report him, and then he will be fired. From his gait, one can judge that he once received a serious injury, just how strong he was before it. Lucas rolled his eyes. He didn't say he was going to report him. Having such a person as a homeroom teacher is much more interesting than he thought. Finally, a few hours later, their classes ended. Kai continued to express his dissatisfaction. The stupid teacher really did make them study on their own all morning, and it was irresponsible to appoint a class monitor at his own whim. Lucas didn't listen to him, because he saw his sister and how her lesson went. Their class teacher, Miss Linda, is very sweet, and she motivated the girl to become the class president next year. Had the martial arts department already chosen a class president? Julia hoped it was her brother. Lucas smiled and laughed briefly. Not him, but he was offering to have lunch together. At the Aaron Magic Academy, even dishes are subject to a strict point system. And this policy has led to this situation. First-year students can exchange money for points, but only once, although the amount that can be exchanged varies from faculty to faculty. Julia was delighted with the local cuisine. Her brother should definitely try it. Kai was experiencing a silent fit of rage. How unfair it all was. They all paid 1 coin, but the elite class gets 100 points, and the martial arts department only gets 10. Outrageous. The martial arts department is only given 10 points. If he wants to complain, he should do it outside. Even the teachers openly discriminate against the martial arts department. It doesn't matter whether you're a nobleman or a commoner. Untalented students must constantly accumulate points. Kai choked on dry bread. It seemed that with his admission, he even lost his human rights. Julia pushed her plate towards him with a smile. He could try it too. Kai was ready to cry, Julia. Such a kind girl. Lucas heard someone's figure approaching them. He turned around. Miss Maya stood next to him, and they met again. Julia was glad to see the girl. She offered to eat together, but she had already eaten, so everything was fine. By the way, she baked cookies to thank them. Do they want to try them? The cookies were crispy and sweet with chocolate chips. They were delicious. Kai shrugged. He wants to try too. Delicious. On par with the Taro family's sweets, by the way. He's Kai Taro. Nice to meet you. The guy was surprised that his new acquaintance knew such a girl. But Lucas couldn't say that she was his ex-fiancée. When Maya left them, he sighed heavily. In the cafeteria, you can run into many of your acquaintances. First, Vice President Mina came to pick up his sister. Then, Senior President Tio appeared, attracting the attention of many female students. Lucas rolled his eyes. Even here, he was flying with fire magic, such a show-off. It was close. He could barely use 6th-level magic thanks to the pills. He was able to show off in front of the second-year students. Until Lucas heard that muttering after the ceremony, he thought this guy was incredible too. His ears picked up the familiar tread again. One leg dragging behind the other. Lucas turned again, his eyes catching sight of the limping figure. Professor Sigurd was heading towards the exit with a bottle in his hands. Where is he going? He seemed to be feeling very unwell. He was too drunk. Slowly, swaying from one foot to the other, periodically distracted by the bottle, he headed towards the main building. It seemed he remembered the teacher's advice too late, and he didn't really want to go there anyway. As always, many rolled their eyes when he appeared. Sigurd was again the last one. They thought that being in charge of the martial arts department would at least change him a little. But nothing could be done after what happened. In this room, only one person looked at the cigar with sympathy in his eyes. The rest felt only disgust. Then the girl frowned and looked away. Now that everyone is here, they can start the meeting. The director glanced at everyone present. Today's agenda was a training tournament. Here in the Carmina Empire, which is often attacked by magical beasts, the ability to train several of them simultaneously is in high demand. Traditionally, all first-year students participate in the Magical Beast Training Tournament every year, and they have already trained more than 200. The first-level beasts for the competition, as always, will take place over 6 days. Okay, but the martial arts department doesn't have to participate. They won't be able to handle magical beasts anyway. These words made Sigurd furious. He slammed his palm on the table. Objection. The man even stuttered. He just cares about the students. Since they are first years at their academy, the martial arts department must also participate. The others agreed that it was true that all students should be treated equally. Are there really any teachers left who agree with Cigarette? Especially Linda. There's no way they actually believed that the Cigarette was level 8. The teacher spread his hands. Well, if they insisted so much, then fine. Although he was sure that they would simply run away in fear. Then it was decided that the martial arts faculty would also participate in the competition. Is Miss Linda sure Mr. Credo isn't that wrong? They know that martial arts require a lot of practice, but the magical beast training competitions are too harsh. Linda smiled kindly at them, her bright eyes radiating confidence. Many years ago, someone told her that a coward who lacks the courage to overcome failure has no right to call himself a martial artist, and students who refuse to participate in the competition will be expelled from the martial arts department. The Magical Beast Training Competition will be held in 6 days. Once the lesson is over, they will go outside for practical combat training. The teacher will make them strong enough to defeat the magical beast. Isn't the Magical Beast Training Competition the event that determines the class president? Kai got hit on the forehead again. Such a rich boy always irritates the teacher. The concept of fighting is to be careful not to send your sparring partner flying. About half an hour passed before they went outside, the students practicing their punches. It all looked pretty serious. Some even received minor injuries. Lucas assessed the strength of the others. Teishi fought well. As expected from students who passed the entrance exam to the martial arts department, they have pretty good skills for weaklings. Teishi stood out from the rest. She is the strongest here after Lucas. As he thought, their teacher had an eye for such things. Sigurd appeared on the field again with a bottle. It's time. That's all for today. This time Kai was whining from his wounds. And that was finally it. Collins and Sharp go to the cafeteria. They will bring him food as promised. Kai asked him to bring some food worth 2 points in exchange for 2 coins. Collins earns money and he doesn't spend points. Win-win. Sharp was upset that his friend hadn't told him about such a good deal. Collins laughed. Next time, it would be his turn. He wants to earn some pocket money, but he also doesn't want to worsen the relationship. Collins is very smart. Finally, Kai got up from the grass, and Lucas saw how smart he was. Kai winked at him. Let him watch and learn. He won't take money from Lucas. Rolling his eyes, Lucas swatted his elbow off his shoulder. Then he put on a polite smile. He was grateful, of course, but it wasn't worth it. Kai thought that the reason for this was that his sister was in the elite class, so he didn't need to worry about points. Kai mistakenly thinks that Lucas depends on his sister. But even without her, he doesn't have to worry about food, because Lucas can hunt in peace and receive gifts from Mother Nature. Of course, he went out hunting this evening too, and today he managed to bring down a magical unicorn, whose meat gave off an intoxicating aroma as it roasted over the fire. If he didn't have to accompany Julia, he could practice during dinner. But he noticed Vice President Mina trying to get closer to her again today. So for now, he can't let his guard down. If she shows even a hint of malice, he will make her regret it. Yule wagged his tail and stroked his owner's back, which made Lucas relax. The wolf went crazy when he smelled the meat. His reaction was quite funny. Lucas couldn't resist and shared the meat with his pet. By the way, Yule is quite cute. Being a familiar isn't so bad as long as your master shares his food with you for free. Once Yule finished his dinner, he will have to help Lucas in training. He promises that the wolf will not be harmed. The wolf felt goosebumps running down his spine. He was sure that everything was not so simple. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at the Ryan estate was quiet. One could even say melancholy. Catherine sat alone in the garden, her expression sad. Her husband came up to her from behind and put his arm around her shoulder, wondering if she was thinking about children again. Holt thought about them constantly, too. Their classes had probably already begun. If she misses them so much, why doesn't she go to them? Holt will be passing by the city of Daku. He can take his wife with him. Catherine instantly perked up. She was so happy because she would soon meet her children. The atmosphere in the Grind family estate was gloomy and oppressive. The woman shivered. The tiles in the house were terribly icy, and the thin robe provided practically no warmth. When she entered the hall, many people turned their gaze to her. Everyone was glad that Jessica had come. Following this, the woman silently greeted everyone present, nodding, and then sat down in her seat. A glass with a reddish liquid was thrust into her hands. When she drinks it all, her whole body will begin to shine. True, the goddess forgot about the final touch. With one sharp movement, she made a cut on her wrist. Blood spurted like a fountain, drops flying into the wine glasses of everyone present. The goddess was intoxicated with the power she possessed. All guests must enjoy the drink. Now that everyone is full, they will begin today's games. This morning, Teishi gave a speech. It seems they have combat training again this morning. The students howled in despair. Every muscle in their body ached, and they were in so much pain at night that they could not sleep. The girl agreed with them. It hurt, but they had to try, all for the sake of becoming stronger. Some students did not share their fate. They were doing well and had no pain at all. Perhaps they were simply more resilient than the others. Kai grinned smugly. He knew he was the strongest in the class. Lucas rolled his eyes. It was actually all thanks to the calming essence. These four are fine, they have good stamina. At this rate, they will be able to withstand even more intense training in the future. They will become powerful martial artists. Kai radiated confidence and determination. He was ready to rush into battle again. However, he was too reckless and impulsive compared to Lucas. The guy calmly counterattacked his partner's blow, sending him flying with one movement. Lucas swung, gathering all his strength into his fist. Now he would finish him off. But Kai wasn't about to give up. And in just a few seconds, they exchanged dozens of blows. The students trained hard, not even suspecting that someone was watching them. However, Lucas felt it. He squinted. Someone's figure was visible in the distance on the hill. He was an ordinary, unremarkable, gray-haired old man, and it seemed as if he was simply dozing under a tree. While Lucas was in the clouds, Kai thought he had opened up, but it was not to be. The guy dodged his blow in just a second, and Kai instantly crashed face first into the ground. Kai was offended that his partner was turning away. They would fight until someone won. Lucas braced himself, taking a defensive stance. He agreed. When the boys stopped paying attention to him, the old man stood up and disappeared from sight, laughing. Director Otani's assistant offered to take him back to the library, but he refused, wanting to walk back on his own. What a curious young man. He hides his true strength. Just think, even he can't fully see his real strength. He will remember Lucas's name. By the time their training was over, the sun had already set. Today, Teacher Sigurd taught them massage techniques. It was quite useful. The effect was incredible, and no one else in the class had any muscle pain. So everyone quickly forgot that the four of them were the only ones feeling energetic that morning. Okay, it's time to start building a new training ground. First, he will buy materials for it. The Arana Magic Academy, one of the 3 greatest schools in the Empire, has many rare items that are not available to the public. Lucas's eyes were running around. He was so big, just like a shopping mall. And even here, he has to pay with points. For example, a high-quality mannequin costs 30 points. Not a bad choice, but everything is so expensive. It looks like he will spend over 100 points this month. Julia doesn't get that many points, so he can't count on her much, especially since her craving for sweets is unconquerable. Lucas has enough magic potions for today to mix them in the bath. Maybe next time he will exchange materials from Yulia's cave for points. When he approached the counter, the woman sitting behind it was asleep. Lucas dropped the bag on the table, waking her up. He unceremoniously handed the card to the cashier. He would take all of this. The cashier sorted through the items and quickly calculated in her head. Only 5 points. The guy put the card to the magic ball, and it took off the corresponding number of points. Lucas pretended not to notice the woman's eyes studying him. Judging by the uniform, he's a martial arts student. They only get 10 points at the start of training, and this guy has already used half of them. He is confident that he can use them like this. If he uses all the points, he will regret it. The student laughed. He thought that this was not enough, so he would soon come back for more. The saleswoman couldn't understand why, but somehow he had pissed her off. Why would a martial arts student who didn't even have potions classes need so much? With such an attitude towards money, he is definitely a nobleman, which is why she can't stand them. That same evening, Lucas headed to the Julia cave to take a healing bath. The hot water was pleasantly relaxing, and the potions dissolved in it had a stunning effect. The medicinal effect doesn't just disappear after a bath, so he feels it's wrong to just throw them away. But Lucas can't force anyone to drink water after his bath. For a long time, the guy didn't want to get out of the bathroom. But when it happened, he felt just great. We need to exchange some more ingredients for points. It's better not to stand out, so he will only take the usual second-level materials. Lucas tensed when he heard the splash of water behind him. He let out a breath in surprise at what his pet was doing. Only a couple of seconds had passed, and the barrel was completely empty. Did he really drink all the water from the bath? When he realized that he had done something wrong, Yule hung his head and whined sadly. But Lucas had no reason to complain. After all, this composition had strengthened his body, and the problem of the cost of this bathtub was solved. After this, the student decided that he would exchange these materials 6 times for 3 days, and then carry all the tools he bought in the store into the cave. When he bought the mannequin, the girl offered to help him with magic, but Lucas refused. It's good that the shop owner thinks he gets all the materials from the family, especially since the magical beast training competition is coming up soon. Sigurd was furious. This class takes everything seriously. The competition is tomorrow, and don't let them even think about quitting just because they don't like training. If they don't want to participate, let them go home. Sharp leaves himself open when he lifts his leg like this. And what happened to Kai? He couldn't even defeat a chick with such a blow. Professor Seagarth always hits Kai between the eyes, and he says 3 students have lost to him. All 3 of them slumped awkwardly, not wanting to upset the god of wealth, and also wanting to avoid trouble. The man rubbed his face. The stubble pricked his arm. So the noble brats were nothing but pain. Well then, he will solve this issue differently. The teacher put Teishi against Kai. 2 students went out onto the battlefield. The rest stayed to watch. Kai smirked smugly as he circled around her. He was sorry, but he definitely wasn't going to give in to her. He will prove to the girl here and now that he is more worthy than anyone else of being the class president. Confident of his victory, Kai was the first to rush into the attack. He was pleased with his strike. It turned out very good. But a sharp blow to the stomach that made him bite his own tongue quickly wiped the smile off his face. Teishi moved so quickly that his eyes could hardly keep up with her movements. The boy's vision went black when he received a kick to the jaw. While he was coming to his senses, the girl had already managed to strike again. Many were shocked that Kai, who had the physical advantage, lost. Now, everyone clearly understood why the teacher appointed the Tisha as the class monitor. The magical beasts will not give in to them. They must become more serious. Kai was behind from the start and didn't defend himself at all, so Teishi recognized his weaknesses and won. When the fight finally ended, Teishi extended her hand to her opponent. He was okay. Kai looks upset. Tomorrow, each of them will tame at least 1 magical beast. If they can't, no excuses. Everyone will be kicked out of the martial arts department. Then Sigurd headed towards the main building. This was his last warning. Today, they would train until sunset. Kai was about to start whining again when Lucas cut him down. His defenses were really suffering. If he fixes this and can find his subscriber's weakness, everything will be fine. There was definitely something wrong with Kai. He was beating like he had a fever. He had fallen in love with Teishi. For the first time in his life, a girl beat him up. And it was so cool. He already thought of a name for their child. The next day, all the students and teachers were gathering at the main arena. The gates were about to open. The magical beasts here are simply enormous. It's scary to even think how many terrifying beasts are beneath them. When the martial arts class entered the arena, the other classes started laughing. They were all going to get their asses kicked. If they have time to worry about such nonsense, they should review the competition rules. Lucas never thought that Professor Seagart would stand up for the martial arts students. Then he felt some kind of dark and disturbing aura penetrate his field. Kai was shaking terribly. He was worried. Lucas could only advise him to think about magical beasts like the teacher's cigarette. Kai happily imagined himself punching his teacher in the face, and peace washed over him. He laughed heartily, clenching his fists. Wonderful. His hands were already itching. Low-level magical beasts can't bypass his defense. If the guy focuses on defense, he will definitely win. Teacher Sigurd silently eavesdropped on them, mentally praising Lucas. In this competition, anyone who tames 10 animals will receive the best score, and anyone who kills them will lose all their points. They are given 10 minutes. If they get hurt, let them call loudly to the teacher from outside. And let the competition begin. The first pair goes out. Julia looked around in amazement, wondering if this place was really behind the barrier. It seemed she understood that 50 animals could not be in that small space. The saber-toothed badgers slowly emerged from the darkness, thick saliva dripping from their sharp teeth. Well, perhaps everything is already far inside. Julia activated her abilities. The girl used the seal and managed to catch a cute little animal. The huge creatures growled, bound by her seal, but they could no longer harm her. All the animals for the competition are covered in a special potion, and when a participant subdues the animal, acrid smoke will come out of its body. Teachers monitor the students' progress through magic circles outside the barrier. Their task is to calculate each student's results and assign points. Space 5 completed the task. The test was over. The teacher was puzzled. He had not miscalculated. The teacher praised the girl. She finished in just 3 minutes. This is excellent. Julia would rather like to see how her brother was doing and where the martial arts space was. Space 10. The martial arts students go last, so you'll have to wait. During this time, Julia will have time to buy some treats. Lucas Ryan of the martial arts department, they'll see if he can show the same outstanding results as he did at the entrance ceremony. 2 hours later, the potions faculty came out. They only earned a few points. They won't be transferred to a lower class. The classes were assigned at the entrance ceremony. This can't happen. Except for the elite class, even the magic students earned 1 point. Kai was worried again. Would they really be able to stay in the martial arts department? Lucas reassured him that in terms of ability, they, martial arts students, were no less capable than magicians. Sigurd rose from his seat to cheer them up. Namely, they should not humiliate themselves. No one was hurt, since first-level beasts do not harm people. In physical endurance and close combat techniques, they, martial artists, even surpass low-level magicians. Seagarth encourages them. It's so unlike him. Teishi supported the master. She had just made sure that there had not been a single injury yet. Many of the participants were simply tired, as they had used up all their mana. And she also received important information. For safety reasons, the barrier restricts the animal's movement, making it simply impossible to surround the student. If they think they can't win, they should just run away and look for a weaker beast. There's no need to overwork and take everything seriously. That way, they'll definitely earn points. Choosing Teishi as class monitor was the right decision. A low chuckle came from somewhere behind him, and he thought he saw the imitators in their class. As he thought, this is the martial arts department. They have no ability. They can only resort to vile methods for the sake of grades. Greg came to warn everyone that it was soon the turn of the martial arts department. The students of Sigarta had better try really hard, or the martial arts department itself might disappear. Not that anyone cares. A department like martial arts shouldn't even exist. Then, bursting into a loud fit of laughter, Greg walked away. This teacher acts just like all the people who bullied Lucas in his past life. Anger made Lucas take action. He will go first, as number 1 in the class according to the results of the entrance ceremony. Teacher Sigurd spoke with a strange intonation, but if he was nervous, he could switch with someone. However, Lucas cut him off abruptly. He would go first, as planned. Lucas will definitely get an A and show everyone who looked down on them what the martial arts department is worth. His words fired up the other students. They would show them what they were made of. Seagarth was amazed, although he didn't show it. The atmosphere completely changed in a matter of seconds. The students were discussing enthusiastically. And we must not forget what Lady Teishi said. 10 minutes later, it was Space 10's turn, and the martial arts faculty passed through the barrier. The first to enter, as agreed, was Lucas. The young man was not at all afraid. He looked up. It was the magic circle of detection. If he avoided it, he wouldn't have to worry about people knowing what was going on inside the barrier. When a magical beast recognizes a human as its master, their souls connect, allowing them to communicate. In this way, a person can borrow the ability of a beast for a short time. Yule felt the call of her master. He is not stronger than her, but at the same time she uses his power. Lucas knew this, but he still took advantage of it, as it made it easier to overcome a low-level magical beast. His eyes began to see better in this semi-darkness. He saw a flashing silhouette, a whiskered owl. Seeing Yulia's aura, which Lucas borrowed from his pet, the owl tried to fly away in panic, because it is a high-level magical beast. However, she had nowhere to run, because the protective barrier was limited. The owl frantically poked around in different directions, but it was still a dead end for her. Fear made her flail mindlessly in the air, because her enemy was already very close. But to create a situation in which it will be easier for other students to subdue the animals, it is necessary to break their spirit so that they lose the will to fight. Lucas landed only one small blow, but even that caused the animal to lose consciousness. The aura of a high-level beast greatly frightens low-level ones, so Yulia's strength came in handy. Thank goodness the owl obeyed so easily. But until he tames all the magical beasts in space, he couldn't let the smoke from the beast get outside. The guy dispersed it with one sharp movement. After finishing his task, Lucas headed to another place. He will look for other magical beasts. Kai was rushing from side to side. Half the time had already passed, and his friend still had 0 points. Julia encouraged her brother out loud. Everything was fine since she got a perfect grade. Her brother could do it too. For a martial artist, a score of 0 means he cannot defeat even the weakest magical beast. That's the difference between magicians and martial arts students. Greg chuckled maliciously. Professor Seagard did not react to his jab in any way and remained silent. Julia was furious. He had no right to laugh at her brother. He may not be able to use magic, but he was still amazingly talented. To defend the judgment of martial arts leaders in the elite class, they are out of their minds. Even if the girl is so sure of this, her brother's scores say otherwise. In defiance of his words, the bell rang. Lucas Ryan earned 1 point. Great. At least he'll stay in the martial arts department. Kai was very happy. They are so happy about just 1 point. The highest score in their class was an A. Then several bells rang at once. 5 points were earned. A pathetic martial arts student got a 5. The highest score in his class. That can't be right. Lucas scared all the magical beasts. Now his classmates can easily earn points. Well, now all he has to do is get a perfect grade and get out of here. The bell rang again and again. 6, 7, and even 8 points. In the end, Lucas Ryan earned a 10, a perfect score. Julia knew it would happen this way. She never doubted her brother. Everyone present couldn't believe it. The martial arts department received a perfect score. A first-year martial arts student couldn't defeat 10 magical beasts. Such a thing had never happened in the history of this faculty. Greg knew that his colleague was definitely involved in this. Seagard had replaced his student, but the man was just as shocked as his colleague. He did absolutely nothing. Another teacher intervened, meaning Greg wants to say that he, as an examiner, accepts bribes and patronizes cheating. Greg grimaced. He had completely forgotten about the examiners. He shouldn't end up with them as enemies. He didn't mean it that way. It's just that during the entrance exam, the dummy suddenly broke and he got a perfect score. So the man became suspicious. The examiners are going to conduct an investigation just because a martial arts student got a perfect score. That's complete nonsense. Lucas smirked. Let them do what they want. He had nothing to be ashamed of. 10 minutes later, the animals finally began to come to their senses. During the test, the barrier opened, and that's when they went crazy. They saw the world outside, and the strong people that were there before were not there. It was time to run, but it was not to be. The examiners were prepared for this. They used a sealing spell. Usually they are so excited, but the animals are not so weakened as to change space. So they are confident that this student got a perfect grade through a fair method. He hasn't said anything yet, but it seems like something has happened to all the animals. Indeed, Then it would be worth sending them for inspection and continuing the tournament. The inspection did not reveal any violations, so the next participant can prepare. The examiners didn't find any problems, but they still don't trust him, I wonder. But the real surprises will come now, when his group enters beyond the barrier. Teishi, as the second strongest in the class, went next. The girl was serious. She could not lose to Lucas. Having spotted her target, she immediately went on the attack and dealt dozens of blows. She decided for herself that if she couldn't complete the task in half a minute, she would change the goal and stick to this plan. The same skin as that monster. This is a companion. Is he still around? The beast was so scared that it was easier for him to give up. The girl felt that something was wrong here. The third-level dark wolf gave in so easily. Just a coincidence? Or maybe the martial arts department isn't that weak after all. One animal after another, the girl received points. Kai was cheering for his beloved louder than anyone else, and teacher Sigurd was also pleased. Of course, in the end, the girl received a perfect grade, all 10 points. Another perfect score, and even faster than Lucas's. What's going on? Are the animals really not well again? Do they need to be sent for inspection again? As Lucas said, as she thought herself, the animals are not so scary. Martial arts masters are no weaker than magicians. Match number 3, of course, was also successful. It was not for nothing that the students trained so hard. Alto Sharp defeated more than 10 animals and received a perfect score. Match number 4, Decio Collins, 10 points. Kai Teroy was next to compete, and he never doubted for a second that he would get all 10 points. Julia Ryan, Quince Miranda, Lucas Ryan, Teishi Hime, all received 10s. Cafeteria. During the competition, all martial arts students rose to the top of the rankings, showing perfect results. Professor Sigurd was proud of his students, the corners of his lips involuntarily creeping up. However, he also quickly disappeared, leaving his students, after all, the bottle was much more reliable and necessary. A detailed inspection revealed no abnormalities with the magical beasts or the barrier. The question then arose as to why the results of martial arts students were so unexpectedly high. It's all because the animals were scared by the students and magicians who performed before. They hold these competitions every year, but this has never happened. This is the first competition since the Faculty of International Relations was founded, and the close combat with martial arts students probably scared them even more. We'll have to change the rules. So, starting next year, the martial arts department will be the first to compete. This time, the results remain as they are, which made Professor Greg furious. If they do this, the martial arts department will push the magic classes out of first place and become equal to the elite class. That's right. The director slowly turned around. Did he really have any objections? Greg looked down. No. He won the martial arts department not because of his abilities, but because of luck. He has doubts. The director was adamant that luck was also part of ability. Since it is not the students' fault, they cannot annul their results. Lord Otani is right. Then it was time to announce the results. Greg was silently shaking with rage. He clenched his teeth so hard they began to grind. Sigurd would pay for this. This is a serious problem that concerns the very existence of the martial arts department. As a 9th-level martial artist, he should know the real reason. Professor Otani was taciturn and could not provide details, but he can also assure the director that this is not a bad thing for their academy. As the boy wanted, the old man did not reveal his secret. Kai didn't shut up for a second about the exam results. He couldn't believe that he had a perfect grade. Taming the magical beast wasn't as difficult as everyone said. They must have gotten stronger since the entrance exam. Of course, it was all thanks to Mr. Sigurd's special training that Lucas mentally rejoiced that no one suspected him. Kai was interested in what the guys would spend the 20-point bonus they received for winning the competition on. Sharp admitted that he would keep them, because he still had to treat his friend. The only way out is to buy high-level materials to prepare for the melee training next month. Lucas's ears perked up. He had never heard of close combat training before. Aaron Tower. It is called the unique testing ground of the Aaron Academy of Magic. Inside it is an imaginary world filled with different creatures, magical beasts, beastmen, giants. Since they are imaginary, participants cannot die, but will be able to learn to fight different types of creatures. It is very promising, but only about 100 students can enter it. Kai heard that the participants were chosen based on their ratings in the training competitions. They all got perfect scores, so they would definitely be chosen. The friends decided to go to the store to buy training equipment. As expected, all martial artists want to become stronger. But Lucas did not condemn them at all. On the contrary, he shared their ideas. Getting a perfect score in the competition was the best decision for everyone. He was proud of himself. He was in a great mood until Kai pressed himself close to him. He also wants to go to the martial arts store with him. Lucas waved the pendant in front of him. He passed. He wants to take a closer look at the pendant that Professor Seagard gave him. This is the same pendant that only the first 3 places in the competition receive. Kai clicked his tongue enviously. If only he had come a little earlier, this pendant would have been his. One of Lucas's main advantages is luck. Kai could only throw up his hands. Well, okay, then he'll go to Sharp and the others at the materials store. They'll see each other again. That same evening, the results were announced, and all the students present were shocked as the martial arts students received perfect scores. Lila, Greg's student, was furious. Their class was supposed to be the best after the elite class for the 3rd year in a row. They even understand how long her father had been preparing her for this moment. The phantom sword whistled over her head and then slammed into the projector screen. And on top of that, these students also stole 20 spots for the Aaron Tower. The guy's gaze, full of rage, was terrible. These places belonged to them, the magicians. But the teachers who tested the magical beasts said that they did not cheat, and he heard that the martial arts students bribed those teachers. It is quite possible that the guy, the son of the Terra family, could easily have slipped them a bribe. Another of Greg's students, Andre, added fuel to the fire when he recently saw 2 of the second family's lackeys. They bought the last of the training equipment from the academy store. They didn't think that once the martial arts department got their 20-point bonus, they would take away all the valuable materials. Lila gripped the handle of her weapon. She thought their meridians were quite fragile. Everyone else agreed. She waved her magical scepter, wondering if it was time for them to adjust their path to success. The knife arced through the air and then landed dangerously close. Why did they attack them so suddenly? Sharp was very badly wounded. His whole body was covered in bruises and abrasions, and there was a huge wound on his back. Collins was horrified. Could it really be poison? He needed to cure his friend urgently. He tried to force a smile. If they want points, then here they go. Judging by the reaction and behavior of the magicians, this is absolutely not what they wanted. Lila rolled her eyes. They were so loud. She didn't need their points. Sharp was so weak from pain that his whole body was shaking. Then why were they here? Her demands are simple. Just crawl like that to the martial arts department. They will then tell their entire class that their lives are worth less than the lives of insects. It was dark. Many hours had passed, and Collins and Sharp had not returned. There is nothing wrong with him returning from his part-time job a little later. Why is Lucas in such a hurry? Lucas bit his lip in a fit of anxiety. He felt that something was wrong today. For the first time, he caught such a strong smell of blood from this road. Something definitely happened here. Lucas felt it and rushed forward, while Kai was confused and asked what he meant. What the hell? Now he's even running. Kai could hardly keep up with him. A herd of goosebumps ran through his entire body when they found this terrible, bloody picture. Collins and Sharp were in terrible condition, both bruised and unconscious. Tears welled up in Kai's eyes, and he trembled with anger at who did this. Lucas just shook his head in disappointment and tried to lift Collins into his arms. The boy's voice was barely audible as he tried to say something through chapped lips. Greg's class. Lila. It seemed like some girl had torn his meridians. Lucas was so angry that his vision went dark. Lucas tried to calm the Kai, who was tossing and turning. He was still alive, just unconscious. He will try to stop the bleeding, and Kai must bring the potion as soon as possible. Kai was still upset. He ran as quickly as possible towards their dorm. Lucas activated his powers. Everything and the bones are broken. They are probably cursed. He knows for a fact that it's a bone-breaking technique used by black market assassins. Lucas cursed under his breath. To hurt them with such a brutal technique was definitely an assassination attempt. Sharp seemed to be in a state of delirium, crying and moaning in his sleep, calling for his parents. Something inside Lucas went cold. Everything will be fine. He will avenge them. Finally, Kai returned. And not alone. Teishi was with him. The guy bumped into the girl on his way back, so he had to tell her everything. They were attacked. but their lives are not in danger. They need to rest for at least a couple of days. It's good. It's all thanks to Lucas's first aid. Damn. He'll never forgive them. The girl's voice trembled with rage. She would go to the student council tomorrow. Even the teachers pretended not to notice anything. The student council would not listen to them. Lucas found it unbearable to listen to this. He abruptly cut off his friend. It doesn't matter. His expression is like a completely different person. So different from the usually gentle Lucas. There was wildness and unbridledness in his eyes. Anger was blazing in them. He would definitely take revenge on them. 3 students were unable to sleep that night and broke into the student council room early in the morning. The president closed his eyes and sighed thoughtfully. Well, everything was clear to him. So Lucas wants to have a duel with a student from Mr. Greg's class. If they win, they will demand that the students in the class that attacked them apologize. And if they lose, they will give their rank bonus to Mr. Greg's class. The guy chuckled, but they don't have any evidence of the guilt of the students in Mr. Greg's class. And what kind of rank bonus are they talking about? The pendant rolled across the floor, then stopped at their feet. The student council president laughed. Oh, his hand slipped. If they are going to put on such a show, don't they think that putting such a cheap gamble on the line is too much? Kai couldn't control himself anymore, and he had an overwhelming desire to punch the student council president in the face at least a few times. Lucas stopped him. Then what would be a suitable bet? The student council president hesitated. He was deliberately playing on the students' nerves. He sighed heavily and pretended to be thinking. He thinks it should be something unique. For example, his eyes flashed dangerously. What they think about the right to enter the Tower of Iran. How about this bet? The losing side will forever renounce the right to enter the Tower of Aaron. Lucas was irritated by everything about the students of this academy. Their arrogance, their insolence. He would agree to anything, just to put them in their place. The duel was scheduled for 2 days later, and this attracted the attention of the entire academy. The first years were unhappy that the faculty had won so many places in the tower. They supported the magic class, and the teacher himself even rewarded those who attacked the boys. Instructor Seagart didn't say anything and simply increased the load on close combat training. Everyone felt absolutely terrible, especially because the teacher didn't support them at all. Finally, the day of the duel arrived, and since a large number of people were interested, an arena was allocated to the students. These 3 will fight for the martial arts department. We need to support them. It will be very interesting. Lila was confident in her victory. She suggested that they simply apologize. Perhaps she would even forgive them then. Lucas didn't react to her tease in any way. They still don't know how this will turn out. The host's loud voice rang out and reminded both sides to prepare for the duel. All the students pulled out their weapons. They were more prepared than ever. The adrenaline pumped through their blood as they waited for the signal. And it felt like a blessing. Andre used an ice storm spell, placing dozens of seals around himself, and attacked another student. However, Kai didn't care. He fought them off with ease. He couldn't wait to knock this guy down a peg. Was that really all he could do? Unable to contain his grin, Andre hid his face behind his hand. He was putting on such a brave face, not even realizing that he had fallen into a trap. And then Kai felt that he was immobilized, because his legs were bound by ice. Andre watched with pleasure as he tried to break free. There was no way out of here. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the noble brat. He activated the seal. Andre was confident of his victory, because Kai would never be able to escape from the attack of ice shards. Through the icy steam, he saw a pool of blood appearing on the floor. He finally understood. This is what happens when you provoke a mage, Andre laughed. To his surprise, Kai was still conscious, muttering something to himself. Andre mimicked him. If he was already giving up, he should speak louder. Lila had no doubt that her team would win. After all, a loser remains a loser. She slowly turned her arrogant gaze towards the rest of the martial arts faculty. If they admitted defeat now, maybe she would spare them. Her words infuriated Lucas. And how long did she plan to keep talking? Kai laughed with a malicious laugh. Could his ice magic freeze the lava in the mountains of magical beasts? Lila realized it much earlier than Andre. She screamed, "What an idiot!" The girl tried to warn her partner. She screamed for him to run. But it was too late. There was an explosion and the smoke engulfed both boys. It is unknown what happened to them. Andre was thrown back a few meters. It was lava jelly. Doesn't Kai care about his life at all? Blowing it up here? Luckily, Kai was okay. His distraction effect worked, and he managed to wound his opponent. Shouts of surprise were heard from the stands. How could it be that a master of martial arts had wounded a mage? His condition is even worse. This guy's leg is completely covered in burns. Blowing up your own leg just to escape an icy prison. That's determination. As Lucas said, the moment he cast the spell, confident of his victory, weaknesses appeared in his defense. Just think, Andre, the magician, was injured by an ordinary martial artist, but also both his legs are burned. He can't repel his attacks in this state, and now he will just die quietly. Kai wasn't going to give up so easily. He had one more bomb in reserve. The explosion hit and destroyed all of Andre's ice seals, giving Kai a great opportunity to attack. That's why Kai hates mages and ice. Those guys never finish what they're doing. Andre was terrified. All he wanted was to hide from Kai's sight and never see him again. But it was too late. The student flew into Andre with his whole body, knocking him off his feet. The mage was crippled and lost all his powers. His opponent broke his ice shield with just brute force. He can't lose to a martial arts student. Andre could no longer get to his feet, the presenter announced with displeasure. The winner of the first match was the martial arts faculty. Kai was pleased with himself. Of course he was on top. Lucas added a potion to his breakfast that increases strength. The guy was worried about his beloved, because Teishi was supposed to go next. Would she be okay? Lucas knew how strong she was. He confidently replied that everything would be fine. What it was, apparently, they gave in to him, because he was from the second family. Why doesn't anyone want to admit that this guy just won fair and square? While Teishi was lost in thought, her opponent had already begun to act. Such a sharp and unexpected attack. If it had hit her, she would have been torn to pieces. Martial artists seem to care a lot about principle. But for magicians, the main thing is the result. Lila was surprised when, during her attack, the girl decided to attack back instead of dodging. With one sharp blow, Teishi shattered the roots, sending them flying in all directions across the arena, crumbling into dust. Lila could hardly keep up with her movements. How could she be so fast? She was only on the first level. Anger rose in the girl's chest. She grabbed her opponent by the hand. Now she will show. The motto of martial arts teaching is to value human life. At the last moment, Lila tried to activate plant magic, but it was too late. A series of blows rained down on her. Excellent. She definitely reflects her magical flows. Lucas was proud that he had such a partner. Here's the end. As expected from the insightful Tisha, everything ended so quickly. Lila was defeated. It was difficult to tell whether she was screaming in rage or in pain. There's no point in hurting the martial arts master's pride. The martial arts department won the second match as well. The witch fell to the ground, her hand unclenched. It turned out that she was holding poisonous needles. The vice president gave the president a disapproving look, wondering why he would allow her to use something so dangerous. The guy just chuckled and rolled his eyes. She was exaggerating. Nothing happened. This is their Teishi. It is not surprising that Master Sigurd appointed her as the class president. She taught them a lesson for insulting the martial arts faculty. They should have taken their places in the Tower of Aaron, put them in their place. But instead, they disgraced themselves. But there is still a chance if they use this technique. The guy glanced sideways at his opponent. When Lucas entered the arena, he was completely cold-blooded. Not a single emotion could be read on his face. From the face of the magician break, one could see that he was extremely angry. He tightly gripped the handle of the phantom saber. The host called on everyone to be quiet. And now the third match would begin. Student Break moved quickly, running from side to side, trying to disorient his opponent. Some mages, like him, also learned close combat techniques. He would be helpless against the high-speed clan technique. He doesn't attack, but stays at a distance and focuses on defending what he does. Others were most concerned with the question of what Lucas would do now that he no longer needed to show off his skills. But at least he really wants to teach the enemy a lesson. In just 1 second, he came very close to the magician. This action made the guy lose confidence. It can't be. His fist flew a few millimeters from his face. Did he really miss? Taking advantage of this opportunity, the magician jumped back. Was he really going crazy? This guy. This frightening aura that emanated from him. Was it all just a sham? Now Break was confident of his own victory. He grinned contentedly. It was a pity. With a subtle wave of his hand, he sent the phantom saber flying, and it grazed Lucas's neck. It was noticeable that this had dealt a strong blow to his defenses. Lucas was very weakened. The mage was extremely angry that this guy was still conscious. No one could stand his bone-breaking technique, and the fact that Lucas continued to fight enraged him. He dealt blow after blow. The magician will break every bone in his body, even if he doesn't think he'll win without getting a scratch. Kai gritted his teeth, rooting for his friend. Lucas couldn't cope with what he had done to him. The guy realized that his technique wasn't working, but he didn't show it. He was curious what kind of trick Lucas would pull, but it was just a bluff. It was time to end it. Lucas's patience was running out. He squeezed the mage's wrist. That's enough. Something in his behavior and facial expression changed subtly. Now it was his turn. Squeezing his wrist until it cracked, the martial arts student kicked the ground. A first-level martial artist could create such a powerful shockwave with just one leg. It sounds unthinkable. Since they were surrounded by a thick curtain of dust, Lucas no longer had to worry about anyone watching them. Break was about to shout something indignantly, but Lucas cut him off with one movement. He abruptly threw the guy over his shoulder, and the magician hit his back on the ground with a crash. His own magical thorns cut into his palm, and he screamed in pain. He is as familiar with it as he is with the very weapon with which he stabbed Collins with his own hands. Lucas kicked his opponent, putting all his anger into the blow. There was a cracking sound. The guy's facial bones were broken. His teeth flew out. He screamed loudly. Now he can't use magic. That attack damaged his magical meridians. Finally, the dust settled and Greg realized with horror what had happened to his student. Lucas's fist, filled with power, was rapidly approaching the mage's face. And then, he begged for mercy. He screamed at the top of his lungs. He admits that he lost. Lucas's fist hung in the air as he fought the strong urge to see it through. Greg roared. What is he talking about? With his abilities, he should have won easily. This guy. Doesn't he realize how badly his student is hurt? However, Sigurd was dissatisfied and sullen. This would also become a significant problem for them. The martial arts department won all 3 matches. They taught them a lesson for looking down on them. Maybe now they can even defeat mages in a duel. The self-esteem of the entire martial arts faculty has risen. Teishi screamed a warning at Lucas from behind him. With a cry of "Die!" Lucas's opponent attacked him again from behind. But Lucas managed to react in time. This is exactly what he was waiting for. Finally, the magician Break revealed his true nature. Lucas grabbed the guy by the neck and activated the very technique that the mage wanted to use against him. The pain was so hellish that the guy couldn't squeeze out a sound. It felt like he was being broken from the inside. What did he do to them? Lucas threw his opponent to the ground like a broken and limp doll. When Break used his bone-breaking technique, it never occurred to him that someone could do the same to him. Student Break launched a surprise attack after admitting defeat, but student Lucas countered the attack perfectly, resulting in a complete victory for the martial arts department. Ava Miranda couldn't believe her eyes. Her ego was hurt. This was impossible. The technique. It looked exactly like the Meridian Destruction, an advanced technique from the old books. No martial artist in the Empire has been able to achieve this technique for 100 years. So who is this guy really? Classmates cheered on the winners. Those 3 were so cool. But that student was just a coward who could only attack from behind. From now on, if the magician looks down on her, she will also challenge him to a duel. No, it's just that today the Teishi for some reason feels stronger than usual. Teacher Sigurd quickly broke their spirits. They had become too relaxed and he had told them not to get too cocky. But they won the magical beast taming competition. That's already been sorted out. The only reason the martial arts department won was because the magical beasts were stressed out after being attacked for a long time. In other words, the martial arts department was just lucky. The man's voice was cold. They definitely won the duel on their own, but only those 3 won, not the entire faculty. Then he wants to ask if their group plans to spend the rest of their lives relying on the powers that be. Even if they were almost killed, just like Sharp and Collins, they are willing to leave not only their revenge, but also their lives to other people. If they really think this is a good life, then no one in this group will ever become stronger. They better leave the martial arts department right now after these words. Sigurd turned around and left. The students, who were in a good mood just a few minutes ago, were now upset and in tears. It was annoying. She would become stronger and prove him wrong. The teacher is right. As a martial artist, Lucas must be confident but not arrogant. If he doesn't train, he will never get better. The woman came out from behind the tree. She told him to pull himself together. Not because she was his teacher. Sigurd just doesn't want his group to end up like him. So she wants it from him. The magical meridians were arranged like a web. It was like a strange meridian destruction technique. Student Break was in a terrible state. Pain and anger filled him. He was full of desire for revenge. The man slammed his hand on the table as what should have been a normal duel between students turned into this. His son's magical meridians are broken. He will never be able to use magic again. Break's father was furious. The criminal must be severely punished. The principal must take responsibility and disband the martial arts department. There was a clang. A bottle of alcohol broke, and in a couple of seconds, the room was filled with alcohol vapor. Sigurd slammed the door in anger. A harsh punishment for a criminal, that's true. The magic used in the duel matches perfectly with that used on Sharp and Collins E. It is obvious that these three have caused serious injuries to their students. So he demands that the principal punish Greg and the others severely according to the rules. They tried to turn the situation to their advantage even during the fight. But why is he talking about this now? No need to change the subject. They are saying that the student who inflicted this injury used prohibited techniques. It has not yet been confirmed that this was a forbidden technique. A move like meridian destruction is not something a first year can handle. It's true. It's impossible for the Ryan family's incompetent to master such a technique. Greg clicked his tongue and raised his finger upward. But a high-level martial artist could handle the forbidden technique. But the only high-level martial artist on the ground was Mr. Sigurd. Greg let out an exaggerated cry of shock. Oh my God! Was it really Professor Sigurd from the very beginning? If he had decided to use a forbidden technique, he would have used it on Greg long ago. It seems that Professor Sigurd believes that this incident is not related to forbidden techniques, while they will explain the boy's condition. Who knows? Maybe he just got what he deserved. The man asked Lucas about this. The guy swore that he had not used any forbidden techniques and offered his own theory. Apparently, Break paid exorbitant sums to black market assassins to learn how to hurt people, and is quite well known in certain circles as a troubled aristocrat. So perhaps someone was worried that information from the black market would leak out, and some powerful figure used the duel as cover to take action. Teacher Sigurd conveyed the same words to the director, who thought deeply about this theory. The student's father was furious and was trying to deceive them with such ridiculous rumors. Greg didn't like the turn this was taking either. That's just a guess. At least it's more plausible than the theory that a low-level martial artist could use an ancient forbidden technique. The very fact that there was someone there who could use forbidden techniques, if they carelessly incurred the wrath, they could get into serious trouble. Meridian destruction is a terrifying technique that can instantly break even a genius mage. It was deep night. Everyone in the academy was asleep except for one person. For some time, he quietly wandered along the library shelves, illuminating the spines of books with a flashlight. And finally, he found it. This book is covered in dust, which means someone has definitely touched it recently. The old man slowly turned the pages, reading carefully what was written, until he found what he needed. On the page, there was a schematic drawing of a person. This position of the hands is exactly the same. The old man read the text with interest. He chuckled periodically. It seemed he had found the answer to his question. That same evening, Lucas headed to the Mountain of Magical Beasts, where he found hot springs. It's time to finish the treatment of Sharp and Collins. He poured some bluish pollen into the water. The water began to move. It began to bubble. It began to swirl. Its color changed to a bright azure. A strong pain pierced the boys' bodies. They grimaced. Their tendons and bones were healing right now. It was quite a painful process. It was as if they were being born again. Lucas shared their pain. He knew how painful it was. but he still asked them to bear with them a little longer. Martial arts masters can use healing techniques on par with magicians. A few days later, a carriage arrived in the city of Daku. Of course, Catherine and her husband were in it. They will see their children soon. So much time has passed, but nothing has changed. Holt saw that his wife's face was gone, and she moved forward to hide it. Once Catherine had gotten a grip on her emotions, she turned around and smiled again. She just remembered something. There was no need to worry. A young man stood in front of them, holding the horse by the bridle. Catherine covered her mouth with her hand. This is Cyan Miranda, Catherine's younger brother, Quince's father. 18 years ago, suddenly all the monsters attacked simultaneously on the border of the empire. They were terrifying monsters, their size and strength far exceeding that of humans. But even so, people did not despair. They were so brave that they were not afraid to go into battle. People united to fight against the army of monsters. They fought for 3 days and 3 nights, but both sides suffered huge losses. And in this war, the young knight commander Holt Ryan and the mage Catherine Miranda met. It was a momentous meeting that changed the direction of both their lives. And in the face of death, the two vowed to spend the rest of their lives together as one. However, her father, Duke Miranda, was against this marriage. He disowned his daughter, and Catherine severed all ties with her family, including her brother. Just think, their children met for the first time here, at the Aaron Magic Academy. Time flies. His sister's children are so kind. Their father mentioned that Julia looks very much like her in her youth. Why shouldn't Catherine come home? Deep down, her father always wanted to meet and talk to her. Catherine was pleasantly surprised if this was normal, and Cyan sighed heavily. It's okay, as long as it's just her. Cyan was hinting that Holt still had no place in this house. The man waved his hand, letting him go. It was time for him to return to the front. Catherine tried to stop him, but Holt cut her off. Everything is fine. It's good that his wife has a chance to visit home. Even if she is alone, he will come to her when the campaign is over. Catherine felt like she was between a rock and a hard place, her gaze darting between her brother and her husband. Just think. He swallowed his pride and secretly asked Cyan to help reunite his father and sister. He is such a good husband. Father still hasn't forgiven Catherine for the fact that, being a noblewoman, she married a martial arts master. And if one day there appears someone who can dispel the prejudice against martial artists. Lucas sneezed for the umpteenth time. It's strange. He trained so much and still caught a cold. Is Kai really buying food for someone? What a sight. When the boys get better, he'll make them feed him. Not a bad idea. The other students started whispering when Lucas appeared, and Brake was attacked by an assassin right before the duel. So he was just lucky. It's weird how someone can get it 3 times in a row. It seemed like the boys were whispering too loudly, as they accidentally called for Julia. Kai will take Bento with him to his room, so Lucas will eat with Julia today. He feels sorry. During dinner, Lucas noticed something sparkling in his sister's hair. Did she really buy a hair clip? This is a gift from the Miranda family. Julia happily straightened her hair. She definitely liked the gift. Well, she's a brilliant magician, so it's no wonder they fawn over her. Well, it's for the good of the family that Lucas asked his sister to get along with the Quince, also for the sake of their mother. A girl's voice interrupted their conversation. Someone congratulated Julia on becoming a head girl. It was Vice President Mina. The girl will definitely become the star of this school one day. Mina will always be there to support her. The girl smiled and winked at her. The chair at the next table creaked loudly, attracting everyone's attention. Ava Miranda walked towards the exit in a rage. She even pushed a passing guy with her shoulder. It seemed that for some reason the girl was furious. She bit her lip almost until it bled. Not long before, Quince had been to the teacher. Her skill level is almost the same as Julia's, especially in mind control magic. But in other respects, Julia is clearly superior to her, which is why she believes that Julia is more suitable for the role of head girl. Quince was furious, and before the inevitable happened, the teacher tried to calm her down. But anger burned tirelessly in Quince's chest. She would prove with her own strength that Julia was simply the teacher's favorite. Julia was a little upset, and he left, and it seemed like she was angry. Apparently, the girl hasn't been eating well lately. Julia will buy her lunch on the way back. Mina felt it was her responsibility as vice president to smooth things over, Whether she was close to Quince, she and Julia are neighbors. Quince's mind control magic is simply amazing. It's a truly rare ability. Mina was about to say something, but a moment later she stopped because they were not alone. She pressed a button and a protective field formed around the three of them. Lucas was unhappy. It was a muffling magic circle that prevented sound leakage. Mina put her index finger to her lips. This can also bring grief from the mind. The wind magic she wields is also quite interesting. The girl hesitated as she noticed that Julia was distracted by the sweets. Lucas looked at her from under his brows. It seemed she didn't come here just to chat. Her brother doesn't trust the girl. But as long as Julia respects Mina, he won't be a problem. Lucas is quite blunt, so she will speak bluntly too. Mina is sure that he knows how dangerous the magical beast mountains are. She has recently observed changes in the ecosystem there. The number of low-level magical beasts has been significantly reduced, while the crested leopard cubs, which were once everywhere, have completely disappeared. And 3 days ago, the Imperial investigation team discovered a high-level magical beast. Julia was so shocked that she dropped her spoon. Just don't tell me it was Yule. Lucas cleared his throat, and only then did Julia realize she had let the cat out of the bag. The guy tried to draw attention to himself, so she wants them to go on a mission. Then what is the level of difficulty there? Mina cleared her throat and lowered her voice. She quietly whispered, 100 points. Both brother and sister had already imagined what purchases they would make with that amount of money. Of course, it will be easy for Lucas and Julia. It was now lunchtime at the Miranda estate. Duke Sayan Miranda, head of the Miranda family, was silent. Because of this, the atmosphere at the table was tense. No one spoke. Only the clink of dishes could be heard. Sayan cleaned his sister's room, but her father still makes her stay in the guest room. He's so stubborn. Catherine didn't touch the food. The atmosphere was just terrible. Having finished the meal, the father put the cutlery on the table. He decided to acknowledge Julia as his granddaughter, as he sees in her the potential to become a holy mage. Catherine is grateful, by the way. Lucas also showed himself to be a magnificent master of martial arts, and even received the highest score. No matter how skilled a martial artist is, they are still useless. What their Miranda family needs is someone who has the potential to become a holy mage. As she thought, her father's prejudice against martial artists was not so easy to change. The investigation team sent to the Magical Beast Mountains has reported new information. The brother and sister were quite surprised why the investigation into magical beasts had suddenly begun. The letter said that they had discovered a new area beneath the lair. The danger level was unknown. Did something happen in the Magical Beast Mountains? The children at Aaron Academy might be in danger. The teachers and their subordinates are at the academy. And while they are there, the children are not in any danger. Sion and Catherine can wait until he settles this matter before visiting their children. Catherine was upset again. A few more days of separation before she would be able to meet her children. They need a minimum of 5 people to take on this mission, and one of them must be a member of the council chair. Vice President Mina was so shocked that she screamed loudly, and many people stared at her in shock. When she looked at the data yesterday, there was no limit on the number of participants. The president changed the conditions because something happened in the mountain cave. Mina was seething with anger. This guy changed the conditions on purpose. I hope she won't be able to gather 5 people. The student council vice president is so unsociable that she can't find 5 people. No wonder she became so close to Julia. Mina tried to pull herself together. She apologized. Apparently, they would have to abandon this mission. Lucas decided to help her. If she needed more people, she could leave it to them. Such good children. She feels like she's doing something wrong when she uses them as pawns. There was a rumble from somewhere off to the side, and when the vice president turned around, she froze like a statue. In front of her stood a guy who looked more like an exhibit from a medieval museum. Since his best friend Lucas is going on a mission, he must help him. Pleased with himself, Kai stood with a grin in his armor, as if he was about to go on a crusade. This is the high-level armor that his parents gave him. Maya is glad to meet you. She is a water-type healer, so she is sure she can help. Mina decided to take back her words. They are just newbies. They will slow them down and nothing more. Julia was upset. She wanted to call Quince, but she refused to listen to her. Apparently, they are here for the masses, and she and Julia will be enough for the mission. Vice President Mina grabbed her staff. Well, they can go. It will take them half a day to walk even with acceleration magic, so they need to hurry. Several hours later, they finally entered the thickest part of the forest. Mina led everyone present to some kind of cave. A terrifying aura emanated from her. Everyone got goosebumps. Judging by the flag, the Imperial Investigation Team is currently checking the site. This is the Miranda family crest, and there are definitely signs of struggle here. The brother and sister breathed a sigh of relief. They were so glad that the investigation team had not found Yule's lair. When Lucas was completely unprepared, some unknown, frightening creature attacked him from above. Mila reacted just in time, using the sharp blade spell. It seemed that this creature was of a high level. Simple spells practically didn't work on it. Flying above them, she fired her sharp feathers at the students. Kai used his magic shield in time. He turned a smug look to the president's visa. She could leave the close combat to them. While Kai was showing off, the creature had almost reached him. Lucas managed to deliver a well-aimed blow at the last moment, severely wounding the monster. Stop acting tough. He'll handle his speed himself. Maya activated the water spirit barrier spell. They can leave support to her. A moment later, the situation became much more serious, because now the monster was not alone. But despite this, Mina's mood improved. This feeling when everyone works together. A long time ago. Now it's her turn. This magical beast hates wind and thunder magic. Julia grabbed the staff and cast a spell. She managed to create a powerful magical barrier that pushed all the monsters back. The creatures squealed and writhed in the air under the influence of the electric charge, and soon the air smelled of burning. They fell to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Julia's thunder magic as incredible as ever. Julia asked in surprise if she had really said anything. Mina hesitated, stuttered, shook her head. Nothing special. The vice president had truly underestimated the abilities of these pawns and felt embarrassed by her own self-confidence. After this not particularly difficult but quick battle, Maya used a healing spell on everyone. Kai felt full of strength. He was healed in a second. The girl was like a goddess. Goddess, what an exaggeration. But if Lucas was going to call her that, the girl blushed. So this is what the cave is like from the inside. Huge. Their voices echoed from its walls. Using a spell, Mina formed a small ball of light. It softly illuminated the space, painting the walls of the cave in a beautiful azure shade. Julia's mouth opened in surprise. There was even more space further on. The girls moved forward. Kai shouted enthusiastically. And here too, even a small army will pass. The cave doesn't look natural. It looks like it was dug. Logically, it should be teeming with magical beasts. That's right. The further they go, the more dangerous it becomes. You need to be on your guard. And as soon as Mina said these words, a small flock of orcs suddenly jumped out from around the corner towards them. Julia reacted quickly, and the monsters received a powerful electric shock. They have lived underground for so long that their vision has deteriorated, and when they search for prey, they rely only on their hearing. Mina stunned them with a shockwave, so they are safe for now, but only for a while. If they defeat all the magical beasts that attack them one by one, it will never end. Wiping the blood from his face, Kai chuckled. He had a plan. A few minutes later, a huge noise arose in the cave. Judging by the dust that rose, something terrible was approaching them. Kai ran ahead. A crowd of monsters ran behind him. But he was cheerful. Let them aim at him. The magicians simultaneously activated their abilities, and the entire cave was illuminated by a bright light. One charge of spells, and the entire huge crowd of monsters exploded at once. Lucas scratched his chin, thinking, but he looks pretty effective. It's a pretty common attack tactic in video games, and he had a hunch that Kai had been reincarnated as well. The guy lured all the enemies into one place, and Mina and Julia were supposed to defeat them with one blow. How did they like such a brilliant plan? Only he could perform such a technique due to his high-level equipment, and without any regrets, Kai apologized to Lucas for overshadowing him. Following Kai's plan, their companies smoothly neutralized all the magical beasts. Maya periodically treated their minor injuries, and they gradually approached the center of the nest. Kai was full of energy. He ran from side to side. All of Lucas's words went in one ear and out the other. He also missed the words that the guys needed to rest. For the first time, panic could be seen on Kai's face when he brought a crowd of monsters Everyone else had disappeared somewhere. He brought them on himself, but just think, he'll have to sacrifice his companion. Their magical power is almost at zero. They can't do anything. But a moment later, the boys were no longer in the mood for jokes. A crash was heard from the ceiling, which frightened them all. It's definitely not Kai. The sound is coming from the center of the nest. Apparently, the investigation team has reached the nest boss. Even though everyone was tired, the interest was much stronger. They wanted to see what was there. For a moment, Lucas doubted this, as the smell of blood was quite strong there. First, they need to drink the restorative potion that he brought. The guys gladly accepted it. Given the investigative team's skills, it's unlikely they'll need outside help, but they'll still check just in case. It seemed that Mina had great doubts. Everything around was covered in blood, in this part of the cave. Except for them, there was not a single living soul. The students felt the skin on the back of their necks go numb. It can't be. The entire investigation team is dead. The mission needs to be aborted. Mimo ordered everyone to leave immediately, but it was too late. Someone attacked them. Something huge, something bloodthirsty, was crawling out of the cave, dragging the remains of dead knights on its back. Mina's heart sank. She had no idea that a simple mission for students could turn into something like this. When the monster roared, its roar echoed against the cave wall, and its foul breath filled the entire cave. The monster roared deafeningly, slowly approaching them, while the children gradually retreated back. How is this possible? A monster, a minotaur, a disaster class, is here. It was impossible for such a strong opponent to appear on a simple school mission. But Lucas felt his strong aura. Mina froze in fear. A little more and the monster would have grabbed her. The Minotaur's blows were strong and powerful. Lucas could hardly cope with him, but he won't be able to hold out for long. It's scary to imagine how he'll fight back after a couple of minutes. It seems someone helped him by forming an ice shield, and the Minotaur's weapon got stuck in it. Julia ran to them in a hurry and asked if everything was okay. Many assumed that this girl had conjured a shield, but Lucas looked up and it was not so. There was a man in the Minotaur's hands, and he has a theory that it was he who conjured the shield. To everyone's surprise, the Minotaur spoke in a low, hoarse voice, wondering if it was he who had interrupted him. The man continued to struggle against the monster's grip. He saved them even though he was so seriously injured. The man addressed them in a broken voice, asking them to hurry and request reinforcements from the Imperial Army. They must be sure to convey that the ancient seal is broken. The monster was enraged by his words. He sharply clenched his fist, breaking all the ribs in the knight's body. Obviously, his end was disastrous. The Minotaur laughed smugly. He would eat them all up. Despair and fear gripped the students. Julia screamed loudly. Everyone was in a panic. Only Lucas noticed how a small bottle fell to the ground, bouncing several times. It looks like the knight drank a restorative potion. He cast spells on the Minotaur. And here he is, the one talking nonsense. It was a final and desperate effort. He had no more strength left. But the Minotaur's entire body was encased in an icy prison. The man held on with all his might, and in a hoarse voice he ordered a quick report on the situation. Lucas understood that now he could not stay and help this man. He mentally apologized to him. He would definitely return and avenge him. The soldiers' heavy wheezing followed them, causing goosebumps. They must run as fast as possible while they still could. Then his eyes slowly closed and he muttered that he had done all he could. Unfortunately, the ice prison didn't last long. After a few seconds, the Minotaur escaped. A pathetic little bug like him dared to attack him? He would be the first. Julia became furious after his words and attacked him with a lightning spell. Tears welled up in her eyes, but her voice trembled with anger. This man is not a bug. He is a great warrior. In a fit of pain, the monster released the knight from its grip, and the man's heavy body quickly fell to the ground. Mina activated the wind bomb spell. Thus, she was able to pick up the unconscious man. What's the point of them fighting this monster if their team has been given time to escape? Lucas decided to stay. He will detain this guy. So all that remains is to report everything to the outside world. The vice president was furious. They were talking about a disaster-class monster now. A first-year student wouldn't be able to handle it. Lucas partly agreed with her. It wasn't going to be easy, but he was determined. One long step of the monster covered dozens of steps of the students. In the blink of an eye, he was next to them again. They would all die. Mina stepped forward, ordering everyone to step back. As the vice president, she was responsible for their safety. Lucas was surprised. He thought she was only concerned with her own plans. But she clearly has guts. Julia can't leave her brother and Mina. She used magic to contact someone to call for help so that they can fight together. Together, they attacked the monster with magic. Their teamwork didn't matter. They still couldn't handle it. Lucas concentrated all his strength into his fist, and with a determined voice, he asked Mina to believe in all of them. Lucas jumped forward, intending to strike. They would definitely not lose to such a beast. Blow after blow, however, they barely penetrated the monster's defense. But he was excellent at wearing it down. Mina yelled at the boy to continue distracting the monster. She would strike when the opportunity arose. The Minotaur continued to roar deafeningly and spew curses, mindlessly striking around himself. Lucas quickly assessed the situation. It seemed that all the mages were ready. Since Julia's attack was the most powerful, she activated her spell first. For a short period of time, the monster, in shock, was immobilized. Of course, Lucas took advantage of the moment, landing another 10 blows. She struck him in a weak spot and blocked his escape routes. They must strike now. Julia and Mina activated their seals simultaneously, and a powerful stream of magic flew like an arrow in the direction of the Minotaur. The monster was furious. As soon as his leg healed, he would kill them all. While the Minotaur was distracted, the girl drew a huge seal on the floor. Maya won't let him. Now he'll get it. A huge sphere of water fell on him from above, disorienting him and cutting off his breathing. What does he think will happen if he gets electrocuted while he is all wet? The Minotaur would pay with his life for killing these soldiers. Julia's fury fell upon the Minotaur in full force. Lucas was surprised. Wisely, the girl poured water on him to enhance the effect of the lightning strike. The defeated monster lay on the ground, his body trembling under the influence of a high discharge. He himself was unconscious. To develop such a strategy on the fly, as befits a model student, Lucas chuckled to himself. The guy jumped on the monster's back and delivered the finishing blow. Something unexpected happened that made everyone around tense up again. The monster was surrounded by a red aura. The monster's body, like a sponge, absorbed the forces surrounding it, and it slowly rose to its feet. Lucas's eyes widened, fear gripping him. Something he hadn't expected. Yet, out of inertia, he continued to strike, this mysterious pressure trying to suppress his will. In just a second, the monster's huge, bloodthirsty mouth was next to him, its strong grip squeezing him. His greedy, bloodthirsty smile was terrifying. The light from his scarlet eyes burned right through him. Lucas was trapped. Kai felt the ground shake violently. Could it really be an earthquake? He will call for reinforcements, he mentally addressed the guys so that they would wait a little for help. The teeth snapped dangerously close to Lucas. The monster again undressed its huge mouth, intending to swallow him. The flow of power raging inside the Minotaur was too powerful. Lucas was thrown back. But for the monster, this was nothing more than a hindrance. He knew that in just a second he would catch up with his victim. The guy was hurt simply by the sound waves of his voice. He became much stronger. He heard screams full of pain and looked back to check if the others were okay. Mina guessed what was about to happen. She created a magic circle of silence. But even it didn't help her. Stunned and bloodied, the girls lay unconscious on the ground. Seeing his sister in such a terrible state made Lucas's heart clench. Rage and despair seemed to have opened a second wind in him. He cannot give in or lose to this monster. Their lives are at stake. As the Minotaur played, he slowly and smoothly approached, no longer seeming like a single entity, but rather like a smoothly flowing darkness. Lucas knew how vast the difference in strength was, but he still had no choice but to attack. Every time he closed his eyelids, the image of his stunned and wounded sister stood before his eyes. It would kill him. The monster growled, its roar, full of hunger, rage, and irritation, echoing powerfully off the walls of the cave, causing an earthquake. Without thinking, Lucas struck blow after blow. And strangely enough, it had an effect. Having lost his wrist, the Minotaur became enraged, and with one kick, he threw the guy back. Lucas felt despair and fear. He was completely overcome with hopelessness. The monster seemed not to feel pain at all. When the boy found the strength to get to his feet, a terrible picture appeared before his eyes. Instead of a monster, it was as if there was a large pile of meat standing in front of him now. It was alive and constantly moving, smoothly flowing and merging. All this was accompanied by disgusting, slimy sounds as flesh and blood came together again into a single form. The Minotaur's wrist and arm were restored. He tossed the axe, gripping its handle as comfortably as possible, then raised his hand to strike. Lucas barely managed to react in time, jumping to the side as the ground around him seemed to explode. He's coughing up blood simply from the air pressure. The guy underestimated the extent of the damage that roar did to him. The monster's hunger and bloodthirstiness reached its peak. He was drooling. Not bad. The blood of the strong excites his heart. The monster lunged with its entire body. It jumped a long distance. When it landed, the entire cave shook again. Lucas was alarmed. The rocks that had fallen earlier were falling on the others. Forgetting about everything, the guy instantly rushed towards the girls, who continued to lie unconscious. With a few blows, he turned the huge stones that were supposed to fall on the girls into dust. The situation in the cave seemed to have become calm and stable again. Lucas looked around from all sides, assessing the situation. He felt a shiver run down his spine as the Minotaur roared again. The power of its roar is amplified by the echo that bounces off the stone wall that forms after the destruction. The boy defended himself as best he could, but he knew nothing would work against that devastating roar. Lucas felt his vision darken. Hot blood filled his mouth, flowing out of his nose, ears, and eyes. Panic overwhelmed him. All his senses failed at once. He felt like a newborn, blind kitten who couldn't resist anything. He was completely disoriented when the Minotaur raised the axe over his head again. Now he was going to die. The monster pulled the axe blade out of the ground with effort. It was sprinkled with blood. However, when the Minotaur lowered his satisfied gaze downwards, his face changed dramatically. He didn't expect that his small and immature opponent would think of using aura combat defense. An excellent move. But it's time to stop your useless resistance. He won't win anyway. He and those little girls. The Minotaur pointed the blade of his axe at the girls. They will all die here. Lucas got dangerously close to the monster. Let him say so when he defeats it. Suddenly there was an explosion. It was so bright that it temporarily blinded the Minotaur. Of course, Lucas took advantage of the moment while the animal was disoriented and snatched its axe. As long as Lucas lives, he won't let him lay a finger on his sister or the others. Using all his strength, as the monster's axe was huge and very heavy, Lucas struck. A fountain of blood spurted from the Minotaur's leg, and he squealed and kicked like a madman. In shock from the pain, the creature continued to growl and kick. Lucas tried to act as quickly as possible. He struck the wound. The guy continued to deliver dozens of continuous blows. The Minotaur grinned. This is a true master of martial arts. But the monster believed that no matter how good this guy was, he would still kill him with one snap of his fingers. Then Lucas dealt such a powerful blow to the monster that its roar could be heard outside, beyond the cave, and the entire dungeon shook. As a result of this cry, another small rockfall occurred, and a pebble hit Julia on the forehead, causing her to wake up. Confused, the girl looked around. They are alive, but where is her brother? Lucas continued to fight, desperately throwing blow after blow, the muscles in his body burning with fatigue. He inflicted dozens of wounds on the Minotaur, calling down rain from its own blood. But the creature continued to recover. Lucas's face was blank, more like a frozen mask covered in the monster's blood. Julia tried to see through the bloody fog what was happening, but the silhouettes were unclear. The scene that unfolded was terrible. Tears welled up in her eyes, wondering what had happened to her brother. One of his arms was covered in blood up to the elbows. The bloody aura continued to spread throughout his body, affecting more and more areas. Lucas was out of his mind. His eyes glowed with the same red light as the Minotaur's eyes. An inhuman roar came from his throat. The red rot was spreading more and more across his body. Julia looked closer. There was the seal of the Minotaur on his back. He had adopted its madness. The Hall of Wrath was filled with screams of pain and anger as well as the metallic clanging of chains. A hand burst out of the lava that served as the floor of this room. A grotesque black silhouette, reminiscent of a symbiosis between a man and a bat, quickly broke free from the hot shackles, as if the lava had spat it out. As befits the god of wrath, he was furious and returned to this defiled world. Valsava was furious at the actions of the god of war. He would tear off all his limbs. Versita, the demoness of envy, laughed. How naive. The god of wrath was awakened by the wrath of the key they chose. Sitting on the throne, the god of fury looked down. This guy definitely has enough potential. The demoness didn't answer. She just grinned. She was also interested in how it would all end. She had to see. Even at a moment like this, he was able to escape from his control. Meanwhile, Lucas had almost completely transformed into a full-fledged monster, his appearance barely resembling a human one. He only thirsted for violence and death. Now, his strength was equal to the Minotaur. The monster could not bear his attack so easily. It seemed that Lucas could really defeat him. Julia hugged her brother and cried. She wanted him to come to his senses, but all her pleas were in vain. Maya hoped that the calming spell would help the boy come to his senses. But that was also unsuccessful. Lucas is about to strike a crushing blow. Julia needs to leave immediately. Julia was very scared. All she wanted was for her brother to be himself again. One of her tears fell on Lucas. The guy froze in place, his gaze empty. Dozens, hundreds of memories of his sister entered his brain along with her painful scream, and he promised to protect her. There was an explosion, and Lucas delivered the final blow to the unconscious monster. Everyone froze in place. Except for the crumbling stone chips, there was silence in the cave. After a while, the curtain of dust cleared, and Julia was able to make out the grotesque silhouette of the monster and her brother. His entire body and aura seemed to be saturated with acute malice. He was curled up in an inhuman pose, more reminiscent of a terrible beast. Julia walked slowly and hesitantly towards her brother, wondering if it was really over. Lucas tried to force a smile. He was sorry. He was in his right mind now. She just needed to move away a little. Lucas took a deep breath, his own aura once again penetrating his body, thus getting rid of the negative black energy of the monster. To everyone's relief, his light aura was able to remove the Minotaur's dark seal as well. Lucas was practically exhausted. He fell to his knees, and in a breaking voice he said that he was fine. Julia wrapped her arms around him and squeezed him until he crunched, hot tears burning her cheeks. But she was glad that her brother was okay. The gods were annoyed that everything ended this way, and besides, their classmate arrived with help. Versita was still pleased. There was no need to rush. This key still had to pass several tests. For example, she laughed heartily, stroking the snake coiled around her body, losing her family. The demoness turned her cold, calculating gaze to Julia's face. Her naive and radiant smile only caused irritation. Lucas was in complete darkness. He didn't feel his body at all. He only heard a weak girl's voice. Someone was calling him. He used his last strength to open his eyes. In front of him was his whole family. His father, his mother, Julia. Still coming to his senses, the guy slowly sat down. His whole body seemed heavy and unliftable. Where is he? Suddenly, his hand seemed to move on its own. He enclosed all his aura in it and struck. Panic gripped Lucas. What had he done? His body moved on its own. The darkness was pulling him back into its cold and unsociable embrace. What had he done? The guy woke up breathing heavily. Someone next to him was howling in pain. What was he doing? Finally, it gradually began to dawn on him that he was in the Aaron Academy of Magic, or to be more specific, in the infirmary. Kai rubbed his reddened nose while Lucas dozed off. If he hadn't been the victim, Kai would have hit him too. Offended, Kai headed towards the exit of the ward, still rubbing his swollen nose. Why did Lucas dream about this? Was it that strange force he fought in the cave that made itself known? He felt like he couldn't think straight, just like when that dead bandit turned into a monster. Although he was conscious then, the same thing still happened to him. That time, it seemed like Lucas had completely lost his mind when Julia and Maya woke him up together. His consciousness must have been consumed by this power while he was fighting the Minotaur. He doesn't remember anything at all except the rage he felt. Maybe his consciousness was consumed by rage. It's all a bit strange. But is it even possible to suppress anger during combat? Maybe it's worth asking someone to be nearby during the fight so that they can stop him in time. He was deep in thought. His behavior during the fight was completely unlike him. Something was definitely wrong here. No matter how much he thought about who he could turn to for help, no options came to mind. No, the only people he can go on missions with are local students. Asking them to stop him in a berserk state was extremely dangerous. He sighed heavily. In this situation, he has no choice. So his only option is to learn to stop himself. Teacher Sigurd was walking around the hospital wing. He had some business to attend to here. This patient is already fine, and that's all. She's already a high school student, so how did she get such serious injuries only on a school mission? Now everyone was talking about that very same student sortie. So the man was not surprised that he heard about it from every corner. They say the girl was protecting a younger student. Mina was still unconscious. If she really took 2 bunglers from the martial arts department with her, then it's no wonder she got these injuries. Sigurd shook his head and moved on. At that moment, he felt something that made him freeze in place. The bottle almost slipped out of his hands. The aura of a high-level martial artist. This is impossible. The nurses shivered. The windows were closed. So where was such a strong wind coming from? They almost jumped when the bottle crashed across the floor. But there was no one in the hallway. Lucas concentrated a little more. He had been practicing this exercise for a long time. He exhaled, weakened the impact of his abilities, and laughed briefly, assessing the result of his efforts. Excellent. There were 3 copies of him standing next to him, completely indistinguishable. The copying technique was successful. He came closer, looking closely at his copies from head to toe. And indeed, it was practically impossible to tell them apart. According to the old books he read in the library, the clone's strength was at best half that of the main body. With 3 clones, it is distributed evenly. So each clone's power is 1/6 of his abilities. This clearly won't be enough to stop him in a berserk state. But at least it might buy him time to escape. Some premonition made Lucas freeze in place. The only thought that was pounding in his head was that no one noticed him. The guy felt that someone was looking at him from afar. He tensed up. Professor Sigurd was approaching him. The man's gaze was frightening. Starting with the entrance exams, then the competition for training magical beasts, and now this mission. This guy is constantly surrounded by weirdness. So he will ask his student directly. The professor's gaze was penetrating and looked straight into the boy's soul, into who he was and why he came to this school. Lucas looked down. He had no idea how to answer this question. He was so exhausted that for a second the thought flashed through his head to confess and tell at least someone the whole truth about himself. But he still pretended to be a fool. The purpose of his entry into the Aaron Academy of Magic was to master the art of wielding weapons and become stronger. The teacher moved right next to him in a millisecond, and Lucas's eyes sparkled as he received a hard slap. Of course, the teacher didn't believe him. If he wanted to become stronger, then let him show him his true abilities. The guy made his voice more whiny and capricious. True abilities? What does he mean? However, a plan was being born inside the guy's head. Mr. Cigarette is smart, as expected. He must gain the respect of someone like him. Then his school life will become much better. The door swung open. The student and teacher turned towards the creaking sound, and a woman stood in the passage. Teacher Sigurd looked into his eyes and clicked his tongue. He had completely forgotten. Today is a holiday, so the guards are letting anyone who wants to visit into the school. And this woman was clearly outraged by the teacher's behavior. This was Mr. Sigurd, the headmaster of the martial arts department, the man who taught him to be better at choosing who to fight and who not to. A vein began to throb on the teacher's forehead. This child had just pricked him. It seemed he had noticed his mother approaching long before she entered. Catherine's face smoothed out. But since it was a holiday, shouldn't she rest? She turned to Professor Sigurd with emphasis. Didn't he think so? It was definitely a hint to leave. This guy didn't bring any more problems. And while he was his homeroom teacher, Sigurd still couldn't let him create them. The man nodded. Then he asks him to forgive him. When they were alone, the woman exclaimed regretfully, "One cannot anger one's teacher." Since the two were risking their lives in that cave, Catherine stayed at Miranda's estate. She wanted to meet them as soon as possible. Julia looked at her mother with wide eyes. She wanted to meet her so much all this time. Catherine's patience was running out. She looked at her eldest son with a pleading look. He must do something. A moment later, Lucas became serious. She noticed that her father was not with her. It seems the situation at the front is far from ideal. He went to the front immediately after taking his mother to the Miranda estate. The Miranda family accepted my mother, but it seems they still don't acknowledge my father. What a stubborn family of magicians. Their mother brought a gift from their father to celebrate his first place in the entrance exam. This is a treasured sword passed down through the generations of the Ryan family. It was damaged during a battle with an army of beastmen. It all happened several decades ago. It is very difficult to repair, so it is not practical, but it is still a family heirloom. Catherine carefully handed the sword into the hands of her son. His father had high hopes for him. Lucas's eyes sparkled with delight like emeralds in the sun. He would try not to let his father down. Julia whistled and whispered to herself, "My brother is so lucky." Catherine looked at her daughter in surprise, and then laughed out loud. Lucas laughed after her. Julia jumped up in embarrassment, wondering why the two of them were laughing. Lucas couldn't help but hug his sister. She was his mother's favorite anyway. Of course, Catherine had a gift for her daughter too, this animal medicine. Knowing that Julia had a big sweet tooth, she baked them sweet especially for her. The girl jumped with delight. She loves her mother incredibly much, and yet she must give it to Jeremy later. Father prepared animal medicine for Jeremy too. Since Jessica did not come this time, Julia knew she had no choice. She didn't love Jeremy, but she would pass it on anyway. Soon the girl headed to the men's dormitory, where Jeremy was informed that he had a guest. Isn't it Julia? The one who got first place in the special class? What does she want? Jeremy received a lot of attention when his classmates found out that Julia was his younger sister. Many guys patted him on the shoulder, begging him to invite Julia to the next mission. Jeremy's face twisted in disgust and he dropped the hand from his shoulder. Like wild snakes, the vines, under the influence of his magic, rushed at the poor guy. The guys went their separate ways, leaving him on his own. Wondering what was wrong with him, he was so strange. Jeremy was furious. His father and mother didn't even come to visit him. It was just disgusting. They gave the family heirloom to Lucas simply because he ranked first in the entrance exam. His stepbrother is just trash. So why does everyone adore him? He will take everything Lucas has. The time of her visit quickly passed, and Mother returned back to the Miranda estate. However, before leaving, she said that she would stay in the city of Daku for some time. Even though they couldn't see each other every day, just knowing their mother was there made him and Julia happier. For Mina, who was seriously injured, Lucas made a new healing elixir, which was presented as a gift from the Miranda family. Therefore, no one suspected anything, despite the fact that the medicine was miraculously effective. So that's what a noble potion is. Half a month passed, new tests began, and the Aaron Tower opened for the Academy students. So this is what the Aaron Tower is like, worthy of being called the school symbol, shining just like Kai. Come on, she's so tall. There's no need to pretend they didn't see her on the day she entered. The teacher appeared unexpectedly as a large, dark spot, like a gloomy cloud on a sunny day. He ordered everyone to be quiet, because he didn't bring them here to play. Teacher Siegert didn't even look at them. He ordered everyone to take their seats. A lot of the students from the other groups were unhappy. A whole bunch of those losers from the martial arts department. Only a few have real abilities, while the rest are simply trying to jump above their heads. First the teacher, now the students from other groups. Kai was slowly boiling. They were making fun of their faculty again. The boy was itching to attack the other students, but Lucas cooled his ardor. As expected, the martial arts department did not go unnoticed as soon as they entered the tower. And the most important thing is that the rest think that they got these places by chance. The first-year magic teachers even dared to claim that the martial arts department was the only one that did not contribute to the development of the empire. They even argued with the director, just so as not to leave any space for the martial arts faculty. Completely shameless. But teacher Sigurd didn't seem to be worried about their places being taken away. He trusted the school and the principals so much. Like puppies following their master's orders, all the students obediently sat down on the ground. They must listen carefully. Traditionally, Third-year students enter the tower first to set an example for the newcomers. A senior teacher stepped forward and loudly ordered the third-year students to get ready. 3 years after entering the Aaron Academy of Magic, they will finally be able to enter the tower. Jeremy laughed to himself when his classmates looked at him in surprise. That's how you get into the top 100, right? The guy jumped up in surprise when someone called his name. It was his genius sister. Julia smiled from ear to ear and waved at him, wishing the guy a good try. Jeremy's classmates laughed. His little sister is rooting for Jeremy. He shouldn't disappoint her. The guy blushed slightly. Julia was embarrassed. There was no reaction at all. And she was so worried about him solely out of respect for her mother. Finally, the third year moved inside the tower, hoping to be transported to the correct location. The rest of you don't have to worry. Jeremy's been on a really good run lately. Let them just watch. He'll definitely beat Lucas in the Tower of Aaron. Pushing the others aside, Jeremy was the first to move towards the portal. The teacher gave instructions that they should move their sticks in front of them and close their eyes. Jeremy looked around in surprise, trying to find the source of the voice. It seemed he knew it. Martial artist Otani chuckled to himself as he saw his reaction. It was finally starting. The old man closed his eyes, cultivating a powerful wave of aura within himself. Then, he directed all his power into the unusual mechanism. It was scary to imagine how much power this whole device required. Hundreds of different gears began to spin at high speed, and the arena began to move. At first, it all started unnoticed. The spire of the tower splashed weakly. Then the aura spread throughout the entire tower to the very bottom. She was glowing in different shades of yellow, as if she was on fire. Such a strong, fighting aura. In this school, there is a martial artist stronger than Mr. Siegert. It seemed like he now knew the reason why Professor Siegert was confident that the martial arts faculty would enter Aaron Tower. It was that the person who could open the doors to the Aaron Tower, the strongest martial artist, they simply could not refuse. 2 old men were sitting in a gazebo in the garden. The view of the garden was beautiful, which cannot be said about the subject of their conversation. Lately, the voices calling for martial arts students to be banned from entering the academy have become increasingly loud. The director of the academy wondered if Master Otani would tell him what kind of anomaly this was. As he thought, he had already told the director there were no anomalies, and there were no losses either. The old man slammed his cup on the table. He once again generously asks that everything remain as is. If the director does so, the master will open the Aaron Tower as planned. The old man knew he had to give the martial arts department a chance, but that meant he couldn't let anyone in. Master Otani gave him too difficult a task. The director sighed heavily. The students' eyes widened as the atmosphere inside the Aaron Tower suddenly changed, making them wonder if they were still there. Surrounded by his own aura, Jeremy found himself somewhere in the middle of the forest. It seems that only his consciousness entered the tower, but he sees no difference with reality. Even the magic wand is still the same. Is he surprised? After all, this is his first time. It's cool that everything in the Aaron Tower is so realistic. The boys hurried up. Enough of this mess. They needed to join the others. Jeremy clicked his tongue. Show-offs. The guy remained in place, continuing to swear in his head at the others, not even suspecting that someone had been watching him for a long time. Lucas chuckled, wondering if it was even possible to imagine that there were students here who could sense the vibrations of spiritual energy. That grumpy guy, Jeremy? He's not going to have it easy, poor thing, the student chuckled, scratching his chin. Those with a certain level of ability can use detection to observe the situation within spiritual energy. Once the test begins, students will be transported to a random location within the tower and can choose to work independently or as a team. If they decide to form a team, it can have a maximum of 3 people. If they go to the upper floors of the tower, it is better to move in a group. Kai has already started to talk to Lucas, saying that they can form a team. Of course they will be together. But the guy doubted it. Judging by the ranking after the magical beast training competition, he thought they would be in different groups. Seagarth watched this strange student. The expression on Lucas's face, he definitely felt the spiritual energy inside the tower. Linda said that even in the special class, there are only 5 people who have such abilities. This guy is very suspicious. Kai continued to whine about being left alone when someone came out of the tower. The 3 students looked unwell. They were third-year students, but they left too quickly. The strength of the opponents inside the tower varies depending on the student's ability. Every year, there are those who underestimate this and are immediately eliminated. Lucas was eager to know how Jeremy was doing. He squinted, activating his spiritual vision. Jeremy in the central tower, climbing up to the second floor with his teammates. Finally, the three guys reached the entrance to the second floor. It looked quite unusual, as if they had entered another world. The second floor of the Aaron Tower resembled a huge cave, overgrown with pinkish crystals. Jeremy felt the back of his head go numb. It seemed like someone was watching them. Realizing that they had been discovered, the gargoyles instantly jumped out of their ambush. Jeremy was the quickest to react, using his plant magic. His classmate helped him by teaming up and taking advantage of the ground wave. Their team was awarded 10 points for each victory over an elite skeleton warrior. It was close. The second floor is really as dangerous as they say. They need to hurry while they have magic and strength. The center of the second floor was even more terrifying. It was seething with monsters. For each victory over a beastman, the scouts were given 5 points. And that's where the guys got enough. The Trinity successfully advanced from one point to another. The enemies were serious, but they could be defeated. It's great that they made it to the third floor, but they dropped out right after that. At least they were definitely not in last place now. But Jeremy was still unhappy with the results. A classmate nudged him in a friendly manner. "Jeremy is kind of quiet. Isn't he happy?" The guy agreed. Of course he was glad. But his voice and facial expression contradicted his statement. The father fights his enemies in the same way. It seems as if he has become one step closer to him. A few hours later, almost all of the third-year students had left Aaron Tower. Lucas assessed the situation up to the third floor of the tower using spiritual energy detection. During the test, opponents with completely different characteristics appeared, and even enemies of the same type become stronger as the floor level increases. These creatures are created in the likeness of real bodies that exist in reality. If so, then how much combat experience does the martial arts master have? Like Mr. Seagart, that man had most likely guessed Lucas's true abilities. But at the moment, everyone was just silently watching him. The teacher's voice brought Lucas back to reality, asking the last group to gather near the entrance. The time has come. The leading group has already reached the fourth floor. Mina and the others who got the best results in the magical beast training competition will soon catch up with them too. Julia jumped higher than everyone else, attracting the girls' attention, and she loudly wished her luck. Hearing her voice, Mina turned around and smiled at her brightly. She was grateful for that. The teacher was still worried about his student's condition, but she really wanted to get into the tower. She had already fully recovered. Close to the first-year genius and beloved by the teachers, it's no surprise she still managed to become vice president in her second year. Mina is invincible in her abilities. Although she is inferior to the president, it is strange that she is completely unpopular. They're talking nonsense about her again. This time she'll definitely get to the sixth floor and get past that guy. The Aaron Tower looked more like the mouth of a volcano. Everything around was covered in lava and fire. Mina had been here so often that it seemed as if she knew all the places by heart. They would avoid unnecessary fights, end the fights quickly, and head to the fourth floor. Everyone else agreed with her tactics. The team reached the fourth floor in less than 30 minutes, as expected from the strongest group of the third year. Finally, their team reached the fourth floor, and monsters were waiting for them right at the entrance. This is an elite beastman of the fourth floor. He is twice as big as the one on the third. Now it is clear why most students come here. But they will not give up. Lucas almost whistled out loud. A victory over an elite beast by a human gave 80 points. Quick. So it's true that her abilities have grown greatly since her last mission. It's better to kill them with lightning speed. That way, they will save a lot of time. Compared to those minotaurs, it's nothing. The guys are responsible for clearing out the area, and Mina will kill the remaining enemies and look for a way to the fifth floor. The path was difficult, but the desire to move forward was stronger. The mine destroyed all enemies with one blow. Scratched and dirty, she finally reached the fifth floor, a faint smile breaking out on her face. Having frozen for a few seconds at the entrance, the team moved on uncertainly, wondering what awaited them. 3 people have already reached the fifth floor, which is better than last year. Fifth floor. I wonder when Kai will be able to get there. There is no need to rush if they are only in their first year. The third floor will be enough for them. If they gradually improve their abilities, the enemies on the fifth floor won't seem so scary. Lucas chuckled. It seemed that Professor Sigurd also went into the Aaron Tower. At that moment, the shutters creaked open. It seemed that this was the end. Indeed, the strongest third-year group has completed its test. Mina's classmates excitedly asked her how their team was doing, but she didn't answer. Lucas sighed sympathetically. Apparently, the mine had not reached its target. The girl lowered her head, her hair almost hiding her face. But Lucas saw her frowning brows and tears in her eyes. The president was reveling in his first place. Now the girl had to understand. It's not that easy to resist a real genius, he laughed, enjoying her despair. Julia conjured up a fireworks display and congratulated her friend on winning first place at the third-year qualifiers. The girl quietly muttered words of gratitude. But in the end, she was still unable to beat Soto's record. President Soto also stopped on the fifth floor, so it's a tie. Mina shook her head sadly. By the time she saw the steps to the sixth floor, she could no longer stand. But Soto climbed the stairs and was about to open the door to the sixth floor when he lost for the last time. In other words, the girl is inferior to Soto in endurance, strategy, and mana control. But it doesn't matter. The girl changed the subject. They had already found teammates. Julia raised her chin. She would be with Quince, while her partner was dissatisfied. It's just her father's order. It seems the news that the Miranda family has recognized Julia has reached Quince. Lucas is on a team with his neighbors. His rating and Kai are far apart, so they ended up in different groups. Kai was hysterical, clinging to his thigh, and this was his excuse for ignoring him. He was an insensitive jerk. His capricious voice was already cutting into my ears. And who would he be with then? The headmistress approached hesitantly and intervened in their scene, asking if Kai wanted to join them. Their team is missing a reliable tank, so they would be glad if the guy joined. Kai instantly jumped to his feet, and in just a moment he turned from a tearful idiot into a tough guy. However, the blush on his cheeks gave him away, and since they insisted, then he would join. Teacher Sigurd looked at the list of teams. Great, it seems everyone has found a partner. Then his expression became serious. One might even say gloomy. He shouted, "They must concentrate. Each of them knows that people are talking about them behind their backs. They hope that no one wants their insults to become reality." The man glanced around at those present, looking each one intently in the eye. The head girl stepped forward. They would train very hard to prevent this from happening and prove that they had earned their places in the Aaron Tower on their own. The rest of the guys picked up this mood and started chanting about their own victory. Mr. Sigurd insisted that the Aaron Tower qualifiers proceed as planned. Not only did he stop the insults that were destroying the students' confidence, he also turned it into motivational fuel, which seems to have worked great for his students. The ghostly enemies in Aaron Tower vary and have high intelligence. Because of this, they constantly trained in groups to improve their teamwork. And between training sessions, Teacher Sigurd explained to them the characteristics of all races, starting with the beastmen. Sometimes the teacher even took on the role of the enemy and fought with them. It seemed like it was someone's ridiculous advice from outside. Every day was incredibly grueling for the students, but no one complained. Instead, their motivation only increased. They believed that they would definitely reach the top of the tower and become famous. And so the day of selection for first-year students arrived. When they appear inside, their first task is to find their teammates on the central stairs. If they can run, let them run without looking back. And if that's not an option, they must fight as if their lives were at stake. And at least one enemy must be killed. This is what a spectacle it will be when the martial arts faculty has to fight magical beasts at full strength, without any restrictions. Students from other courses laughed. They placed bets that the students would fail in less than 3 minutes. Kai was very angry again, but instead he laughed sarcastically. The howl of these losers will be delightful. The teacher called them to follow him. The 12th group should go with him. Each member of the group was experiencing things in their own way, but the impatience and anticipation were much stronger. Martial arts master Otani watched the martial arts faculty with concern. They must prove their worth today. How many years had passed since so many martial artists had entered Aaron's tower? He sighed heavily. The legacy left by the god of martial arts will finally fulfill its destiny. And now the master cleared his throat. Are they ready for the first real test in their lives? The transition to the first location was seamless, and the students immediately sprang into action. Everyone follows the teacher's orders to head towards the central staircase, in which case Lucas will simply go the other way. Most of the first floor was goblin territory. He heard that they used magic to blur the enemy's vision before attacking, and at that very moment, Lucas was convinced of the truth of this knowledge. The entire clearing was covered in a whitish fog. Alto and Decio should wait for him. He will join them as soon as he finishes his experiment. Lucas wandered through the forest, exploring his surroundings, completely unaware that someone was watching him. The goblin chuckled softly in anticipation as the creature slowly approached Lucas. The goblin was pleased with himself. While the guy was distracted, he managed to spread fog everywhere, almost unnoticed. It seemed to be a failure, as he thought. The goblin's head was split in half. If his clone kills enemies, he won't get any points. The illusionary energy that makes up the enemies in the tower seems familiar to him. It turns out that this is the same energy that Lucas uses to create clones. Apparently, these illusions were created by the martial artist who opened the tower, and the illusory enemies have the same energy properties. Most likely, his clones will go unnoticed. Well then, he'll leave this clone to protect Alto and Decio while the main body goes up. That's a great plan. But wait a minute. If the energy is the same, can he change the appearance of his clones to look like magical beasts? As expected, he can change their appearance without changing their stats. A pretty useful ability. Now that everyone thinks he's doing his job, Lucas is free to move around the tower. Master Otani, who was watching the students, chuckled in surprise. He had seen Lucas go to the library to secretly read martial arts books. But to think he had mastered the cloning technique so quickly. I wonder what he'll do next. Is he going to earn points for his classmates again? Helping them too much would be a disservice to them in the long run. The old man hoped Lucas understood that. Meanwhile, there was a commotion in the forest. Many students ran in all directions because they were met by a giant. The monsters, which were much taller than them, moved much faster. For a first year, this is a serious enemy. Damn, how inopportune. 3 magical beasts at once. What can they do? With their strength, they can only handle 2 goblins at most. Suddenly, an aura exploded over the forest, and someone mentally connected with all the students. They don't have to worry. The fog is so thick that the giant can't see them. That's right. The giants on the first floor are not very intelligent and move slowly. First, you need to increase the distance between them and the giant, and then find the goblins and deal with them. The students followed this plan, and with gritted teeth, they managed to slowly deal with the goblins. The monsters were fast. The human eye could hardly detect their movements. Many students were frightened, but still, victory was on their side. 10 points were given for a goblin scout. They killed him, just like the teacher said. If the 3 of them worked together, they can clear the first floor. Grabbing weapons, the students sensed profit. Then they would go and earn even more points. Winning requires more than just strength. In some situations, it's especially important to use common sense. Using clones to train his classmates seemed like a fair enough endeavor, and Lucas hoped everyone would be able to enjoy today's battle. The man watched the fight tensely, wondering what the martial arts faculty would do this time. Here is a battle team surrounded by 3 monsters. The teacher laughed poisonously. What bad luck. Even they can barely handle 3 at once. Those weaklings from the combat department don't have a single chance. They will most likely be knocked out and will come running back soon. Even if the martial arts departments were allowed to enter Aaron's tower, they will only embarrass themselves. Sigurd's shameless self-confidence was so painful that he was ashamed of it. The man suppressed the urge to spit. Teacher Sigurd remained calm. 3 at once, yes. If they remained calm, they still had a chance to win. Greg clenched his teeth so hard they began to grind. What was going on? What was going on? It seemed that the balance of power had shifted in the other direction, and now victory was on the students' side. One of the goblins released a thick fog. Were they trying to escape? One of the students reacted in time, releasing his sword and using a piercing strike. Another took up his attack and came to his aid, knocking down another goblin. The third one finished off the goblin with a blow. He activated his lightning step skill. Another goblin scout defeated, plus 10 points. They took down 2 advanced goblins so quickly. The martial arts faculty did it. It can't be. Teacher Seagarth was pleased with his students. His lips curled into a semblance of a smile. Well done. His class already has a team that defeated 2 enemies, he taught them. The enemies in the Aaron Tower are not that scary. They knew their guys could handle it. They had to try their best, too. The man also felt some strange energy disappear near the 3 of them just now. Could it be that Lucas had done something weird again? The guy cursed himself when he sneezed while sitting in ambush. Lucas scratched the back of his head in confusion, wondering if Julia was gossiping about him again. It wasn't the voice that rang in his ears. His older brother is amazing and will definitely reach the top. He jumped down from the tree, planning to move on when he met up with his teammates. Sharp smiled. He was so glad that their friend was okay. He had been gone for so long, they were worried. Lucas was teleported quite far away, just like the others. Another team has arrived, but other than that, everyone is already at the assembly point. Lucas assessed the situation. Everyone was tired, but no one was seriously hurt. Great. But there was also something alarming. The other groups were also due to arrive soon. Collins noticed a subtle change in Lucas's expression and asked what had happened. The guy shook his head and stretched his lips into a self-confident grin. Nothing like that. Once everyone is gathered, they will move to the 2nd floor. So, the martial arts department hasn't lost a single team yet. They must be fast runners. But they're willing to bet that students are now panicking over the current status of the martial arts department. Greg gritted his teeth in displeasure. It looked like they had all made it to the 2nd floor. His student mages were shocked. Disgruntled sighs escaped their lips. These weaklings fled from all the enemies on the 1st floor. Even among first-year magicians, there are usually expelled students on the 1st floor. If the martial arts department continues to improve like this, they will start taking resources away from the magic classes. The monsters looked simply disgusting and frightening, especially their long and slimy tongues that groped along the surface. They were quite sensitive to any movement, and there were quite a lot of them wandering around. Starting from the 2nd floor, teams are teleported randomly depending on the group's results. The stronger the team, the more difficult the challenge. Lucas needs his clone to start looking for the rest of his classmates quickly. This time, he cloned his pet, Yulia, whose physique was perfect for moving around in the cave. Collins and Sharp peered around the corner to see how Lucas was doing. There are a lot of enemies. They move in groups. It will be very difficult to completely avoid combat. The test at Aaron Tower was still meant to give you combat experience, Lucas shrugged. The boys agreed with him that running away all the time meant not achieving the goal of the test. Suddenly, a monster fell from the ceiling somewhere above, and it seemed like it almost grabbed Lucas. The guy managed to jump back in time. He's okay. He didn't even notice how 2 enemies got so close. If it had been Sharp, he would have been mown down long ago. The huge cave wolf charged. Its long claws aimed straight at Lucas's eyes. It's quite clever of them to first throw a feint and then immediately call for help. On the 2nd floor, the first monster, a raccoon beastman scout, was defeated. Plus 10 points. This is just the vanguard. If they don't finish them off quickly, reinforcements will come. Collins was confused and lost his dagger. He grabbed it earlier in a panic and accidentally threw it away. Lucas looked back, but they didn't have time for that. The enemy was approaching. Another beastman is approaching right under their feet. They need to be on guard. The ground exploded right at Sharp's feet, and the boy managed to dodge in time. As Teacher Sygarth said, the enemies on the 2nd floor are on a completely different level than the enemies on the 1st. They are stronger and smarter, capable of surprise attacks and stealing their weapons. And yet, even if they steal the boy's weapon, the beastmen will soon regret it. On the enemy's shoulder, it blossomed early. Flooding the ground with blood, the monster howled in pain. It's a good thing the guy spent his points on you and bought you the stone dragon bracers. This only provoked the wolf early. When it comes to strength, no one can compare to Sharp. Decio arrived in time to help. It was finally his turn. Together, they delivered the finishing blow, defeating another raccoon beastman scout, giving them 10 points. Lucas smiled and praised his friends. This is great teamwork. The students moved further along the cave passage. They needed to keep moving forward for the sake of the martial arts department. Greg was getting more and more nervous. He was already starting to twitch his leg. How is it possible that no one has dropped out of the martial arts department yet? With their level of skill, they should have been surrounded and mowed down by the time they reached the 2nd floor. Could it be that the martial arts students are so weak that Aaron Tower simply lowered the difficulty for them? But this idea turned out to be absurd. If this were the case, the teachers would have filed a complaint long ago. Meanwhile, on the second floor of the Aaron Tower, the battle was in full swing. Monsters scurried throughout the cave, squealing and swinging axes. But the advantage was still on the side of the students, who successfully defeated them. Some of them were slightly wounded, exhausted, but victory was still on their side. The students quickly adapted to the conditions on the floor, developed tactics, and the fight became increasingly easier. They've already knocked down 3 people, it seems. But Collins is getting tired much more slowly today. The victory made them feel a new surge of strength. They could continue like this for a long time. Everyone made it to the second floor without a scratch if Lucas used the Ryan family support technique. If the hero's battle cry is true, then most likely they will be able to pass the second floor together. Amazing! They never thought they could defeat so many enemies at this rate. Maybe they would actually reach the third floor. Dozens of points were awarded to each student who masterfully defeated the Beastmen scouts. All 12 martial arts students reached the stairs to the third floor. Greg was furious. These students don't look anything like the first-year students. What the hell did Professor Seagard teach them? Will they really all make it to the third floor? No one in history has ever made it there on the first try. This won't happen. Some students in the martial arts department are already at the limit of their physical capabilities. Teacher Greg was reveling in this toxic hope that they would soon be forcibly thrown out of the tower. Unfortunately, the professor turned out to be right. No matter how happy the students were, they were still starting to get tired of the incessant battles. There was virtually no break between each slaughter, meaning there was no time to recover. Collins could barely imagine his legs. Lucas managed to catch him in time and asked with concern about his friend's condition. It seems the student began to realize that he was about to be thrown out. This was his limit. They could not worry about him. Lucas's face was blank. He didn't want their training to end like this. Many were no longer able to reach the third floor. They remained on the stairs. Lucas had to do it for them. The students encouraged him. He had to prove to those smart Alecs from the magic class their strength. But still, they should be proud of themselves. Because they have come so far, they should at least try to get to the third floor together. Sharp's attitude encouraged the others. After all, they were one team, and they needed to work together and get to the door to the third floor together. They must survive the last remnants of strength. They will do it together. There are 12 students who have reached the third floor of the Arana Tower. Barely able to stand on their feet, the students made their way to the third floor. And so, this is what it looks like. The Aaron Tower. Immediately, without giving them a chance to rest, monsters attacked them. They were much larger and stronger, so it was clear that this battle would be much harder. Of course, the first-year students didn't last even a few seconds. They were immediately thrown out of the tower. The third floor was merciless. They didn't even have time to see how many enemies there were. The third floor is the current limit of the martial arts faculty. To avoid suspicion, Lucas deliberately allowed only his real body to leave. But his clone is still inside the tower. So, by supporting the second group of the martial arts faculty with the hero's battle cry, he was able to lead everyone up to the third floor. This way, every student in the martial arts department will get a good result, and no one will stand out. No, to be more precise, the entire martial arts department will stand out. It can't be literally every student in the martial arts department made it to the third floor. Usually, only the elite course can do that. This is bad. Mages must surpass the martial arts faculty in both packs and floors reached. Greg was practically shaking with anger. Magic classes can't lose to fighters. Is losing to the militants really so unbearable that they use up magical power like water from the very first floor? What are they going to do in the second and third years? Get so heated up and lose their composure? It seems that we shouldn't expect much from the first magic courses this year. The third group was eliminated on the first floor. The fourth group, on the first floor, 3 dropped out. The second floor, everyone was eliminated. The announcement of each group was a blow to the self-esteem of the magic faculty teacher, as well as his students. Not a single student ranked 40 or lower made it to the third floor. Moreover, some teams were completely destroyed already on the first floor. It was a complete failure. Teacher Greg was furious. This was wrong. Set up against magic classes. Enemies only start to multiply and get stronger when it's their turn. It is unacceptable to deny reality in front of students. And Teacher Greg was told to calm down. Does Teacher Greg not understand that the Aaron Tower is working properly? Or is he trying to tell me that his sensory abilities have been weakened? But Mrs. Linda didn't even intend to listen to his answer. Instead, she went to congratulate Professor Siegert. Mr. Siegert and his brats, all the fighters, were a thorn in his side. The man bit his lip until it bled. Magic classes are pretty impressive, aren't they? That's why she told him that it would work if he tried. The man's face was expressionless. This wasn't her merit. It was the result of the students' own hard work. And more importantly, it was soon their turn for the elite course. However, the teacher does not have to be there. These children do not need her concern. Besides, the head of her class is there, the most responsible and talented girl. Julia was proud of her amazing older brother. If he put his mind to it, he could rise much higher than the 4th floor. Why does the best first-year student have to be a fighter, while the rest feel defeated even before the test begins? Kai and the others waved at Julia, wishing her luck and reminding her to eat her candy. The examiner was concerned about what denomination they were talking to her about, and why they were telling her about it at all. This is a magical power pill that instantly restores mana. Pills of this quality are extremely expensive because fighters capable of creating them are now a rarity. What a waste to use such a precious thing for a school test, the man grimaced. Julia already has a huge reserve of magical power, but since everyone takes the potion before the test, Lucas thought, let her accept it too. This guarantees Julia an excellent result, and he will not doubt it. Of course, Julia moved quickly through the floor, using her abilities to the maximum. Just one Thunderfall spell killed several monsters in one fell swoop. Quince was amazed by this control. To direct lightning precisely at enemies and not touch even a blade of grass. Julia was completely unaware of her talent. She just smiled and asked the Keens to follow her. 1,000 Thunderbirds. Julia dealt with all the enemies nearby. She called out to her teammates, Iva and Derek, that they should move on. It's good that Julia is here. That lizard used to be resistant to fire, so his fire magic alone wouldn't have been enough. Ava chuckled. If this were the real world, she would simply control their minds and force them to kill each other. Julia happily echoed her sentiment. On a real battlefield, the Quince would certainly have been much more impressive. The phantoms in Aaron Tower have no consciousness, so her mental magic is useless here. The girl was disappointed. At the moment, all she can do is pinpoint enemy locations. So she's pretty much useless here. And yet Julia doesn't complain at all. This girl even acknowledges her abilities. It's so strange. Against her will, Ava felt a pleasant feeling in her chest. But at the same time, she became angry. To hide the blush on her cheeks, the girl moved forward, this time giving way to Julia. Derek, confused, tried to keep up with the girls. These two were running too fast. However, Quince's embarrassment quickly passed when some sixth sense told her that someone was watching them. Julia, overwhelmed by the views around her, did not notice the girl and crashed into her. She rubbed her bruised nose. Why did Ava suddenly stop? Was there really an enemy there? The girl shook her head in confusion. She probably thought it was strange that she kept feeling someone's presence. Derek didn't pay attention. He asked that when they reached the 4th floor, Ava find them a route with a minimum number of enemies. A group of first-year students caused a sensation. 3 students reached the 4th floor, and this on their first try. It was dangerous. Mental magic users were really very perceptive. Lucas felt a slight chill. 3 first-year students reaching the 4th floor is simply incredible. It is the result of the students' own hard work. It's also a testament to how well Teacher Linda teaches. Lucas was proud of his sister. And of course, Julia is outstanding. The effect of the magic pill only increases the reserve of magical power. How high Julia and the others can rise depends only on their own abilities. In the safety of Aaron Tower, all he can do is watch his sister grow up. Quince came running to her aid, cautiously. There were 4 enemies behind and to the right. On this floor, there were beast archers who fired thunder arrows from above. Julia was just about to attack them when the monsters exploded, illuminating everything around with a bright flash. Finally, Derek was useful. Using his flames, he defeated the monsters. Julia must be exhausted after the 3rd floor. He could deal with that himself. The arrow that flew millimeters from him proved otherwise. A new wave of monsters was advancing. Derek activated his blazing flame again, and there was no trace left of the monsters. He was proud of himself. His fire magic was pretty good too, wasn't it? Quince raised the alarm. Many enemies were approaching. About a dozen. They were rushing straight towards them at incredible speed. The team ran with all their might towards the exit. It seemed that just a little more and they would be free. But it was not to be. In the last seconds, the door was blocked by a thick grate. Countless monsters, huge and strong, of all kinds, were advancing on them. It's useless. Only a metal magic user can break through this grate. The students' voices were filled with despair. With the last of her strength, the girl hit the bars with her fist. She was sure that there was another way. Quince was so immersed in studying the grate that she completely failed to notice the wolf's attack. Julia arrived to her aid in time. The thunder shield successfully protected them, hitting the monster with a powerful bolt of lightning. They can also melt metal with their temperature, and they will take care of their enemies. At that point, Derek must focus on melting the grate. Julia worked hard to restore the protective barrier, which was doing a great job of repelling the enemies. The fourth one from the left is the fastest and the weakest. You need to attack there. Julia continued to pour her power into the barrier when she noticed something was wrong with her partner. The student activated his spell. Now is not the time to explain. She continued listing. 3 on the left, 2 on the right, faster. Julia was glad that they finally got along. She smiled and nodded at her. Quince continued to prompt her while the girl attacked the weakest monsters. Together they worked much more effectively. If these were the enemies of the 3rd floor, they would have already been torn to pieces. As expected, the monsters of the 4th floor are on a completely different level. Ava was so worried that her throat was dry. First, she needed to deal with the right side. Julia continued to attack, but there was a problem. She would soon run out of magic power. She's sorry. Now she'll probably only be able to hold back the giant. Then Julia had to find the moment and finish off the wolf. The girl obediently followed the order. What is she talking about? She is already doing more than enough. It is Iva who should apologize. Her strength was running out. Julia squeezed out everything she could for the last attack. Finally, the last monster was defeated and they managed to survive. They defeated them all, and the giant is still immobilized, so they are safe now. When they get out of here, can she boast that she protected her classmates like a true class representative? Quince rolled her eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. What conceit! But she allowed herself to relax too soon. The monster's advance was still not over. How could she not notice the approach of another group of enemies? Quince sacrificed herself to buy them some time. Julia must escape as quickly as possible. The girl couldn't believe her eyes. Everything happened so quickly. The silhouette of the Quince disappeared into the air. Derek urged her on, and he managed to open a passage wide enough for only her to fit through. She must run as quickly as possible. She cannot waste all her magical power here. Derek decided to stay behind to hold off the last monster, at least so Julia could get through. 2 people just dropped out, so now there's only 1 person left on the 4th floor. In that situation, Derek instinctively covered for Julia, because she was the only one who could continue on. The whole team performed well, Quince grumbled discontentedly. She just returned the debt. If it weren't for the Aaron Tower, where mental magic users are at a huge disadvantage, she wouldn't have lost to anyone. The girl glanced sideways at Julia, her chest filled with a mixture of worry and contempt. A scout to track the movements of phantoms, an engineer to hack mechanisms. Each understood their strengths and weaknesses. They made the right decisions, great. And the same goes for those 2 inside the tower. The entire 4th floor of the tower was on fire. But there were still some people left there, someone whose presence no one noticed. The copy of Lucas successfully defeated the monster. He grinned smugly. Then he assessed the situation. These traces looked like Julia had also cleared this area. The girl quickly moved along the corridor. She needed to get to the safe zone before her magic power ran out. Dozens of monsters surrounded her, but she tried not to waste her energy on the battle, quickly rushing between them. She can't let Derek and Quince's sacrifices be in vain. She needs to move forward. Suddenly, she felt something strange. Something passed by her, and at that moment, all her fatigue disappeared. The hero's battle cry reduces fatigue, increases morale, and increases defense and attack power by 30%, but only for 10 minutes. With this, Julia will also be able to pass the 4th floor. As soon as all the students complete the tests, the Aaron Tower will close. If Lucas wants to explore the upper floors, now is his only chance. The fifth floor resembled an underwater world. It was completely flooded with water, and immediately after entering, holding his breath, Lucas swam through the waving seaweed, looking around with interest. Sensing movement in the water, the huge creature headed towards him, and Lucas barely managed to hide in the seaweed. He knew he had to avoid unnecessary battles to conserve his strength for the sixth floor. Lucas transformed his clone. It seems that the intelligence of fish people is not very high. Well, he will move on. 5 minutes later, the guy quickly swam the entire fifth floor underwater, and then slipped out of the water onto dry land. At this time, his sister was still on the fourth floor, desperately fighting a horde of monsters. Finally, she almost reached the tower. Just a little more and she would be safe. Another 10 minutes passed. Lucas was already approximately in the center of the floor itself. He barely had time to dodge the sharp-toothed mouths of the monsters. Sometime later, Julia was relieved to finally reach the safest area inside the tower. Euphoria took over her mind. She squealed with delight that she had succeeded. Just as her older brother was pleased with himself, he walked up to the next floor. There was a portal in front of him. Its surface was wavy and shiny. It was even a little frightening. Still feeling on top, Lucas reached for the thin membrane that was supposed to take him further. As he walked forward, it felt as if his consciousness was being divided. It was a very strange and painful sensation. The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was impenetrable darkness, studded with stars everywhere. Finally, the sixth floor. Weightlessness made him float in the air, not feeling his own weight, a sensation unlike anything else. But how strange. It was quiet and empty all around. There were absolutely no monsters here. Even the very concept of space did not exist here. The only thing here is a monument covered with incomprehensible inscriptions. The back of the boy's head went numb as he realized that this monument was absorbing his fighting energy. The seal absorbed more and more until it began to shine with a bright, blinding light. So this kid really did make it to the sixth floor. This must be the legendary legacy of the god of martial arts. But his plan was not so perfect. Unfortunately, his little sister was already at her limit. Just a little more and the tower would close. Although how much she can achieve before the Aaron Tower closes depends only on Lucas. The Great Eye kept a close eye on the god of martial arts, not liking his presence here. This time he won. But they had already sown their seeds all over the world. Even if it takes tens of thousands of years, they will still come back. God got tired of listening to this chatter. He rolled his eyes and cursed. Enough chatter. This monster's age has come to an end. Now it will die. The absolute style of the god of martial arts, the fang of destruction. The god's magical powers grew, gaining strength and erasing the monster from this world. Lucas was so struck by this vision that for a moment he forgot how to breathe. This vision. Is this a memory of the god of martial arts' past battles? He doesn't know when exactly it happened, but that creature said that it left its seeds in this world. It seemed that assumptions began to creep into his head. Then those monsters, like the Minotaur and the zombified creatures, were they really them? He tried to put his screaming thoughts in order. He needed to figure this out in more detail. There was no need to rush. He touched the inscribed slab again when he felt someone's presence from outside. He jumped back, doing a somersault in the void. Could this really be an enemy attack? Watching from the side, he realized they weren't aiming at him. The target of this fruitless hand was the monument itself. When Lucas opened his eyes again, he was amazed to find himself at the base of the Aaron Tower. He dodged the attack, but was still thrown out. So was Julia eliminated from the test? Well, since the monument is no longer there is no point in staying in the Aaron Tower either. Lucas was surprised to feel a change in his body. Was it because he saw the martial arts god's technique in that vision? Finally, the tower's gears stopped and it closed completely. Martial arts master Otani visited the tower this year and wished the young warrior to continue training and become stronger. The trial is over. The Aaron Tower will be sealed. The last participant has just completed their trial. Julia Ryan, the first freshman in history to reach the 5th floor on her first try.